bunches of bellies and fondness and teddies. It's Between Nerds. My name is Joe Elias. I am the co-host of Between Nerds podcast, and I'm here with my other co-host, Miss Aldo Mendez. What's up, mate?
Hello, man. How you doing today?
I am great. Isn't that weird that I had an Australian accent for all of 3 seconds?
Yes, all of 3 seconds.
That was very strange. But welcome to episode 66 of Between Nerds podcast. Fuck, where does the time go? I don't understand how we go through episodes so quickly.
Week by week, bro. Week by week.
66 weeks, and then some. And then some. We've taken 10 weeks off here and there? That's ridiculous.
10 weeks here and there? I don't think we've taken that long.
No?
No.
God, we're too good at podcasting, which is why everyone listening right now should leave a rating on their podcasting platform of choice if they're able to. Follow our Podbean page because we got our first follower on Podbean this week, which was exciting.
Good.
Follow us on our social media handles. That's at Between Nerds on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram. I don't even know what else at this point.
And if you want to leave some comments, concerns, or anything like that, you can always reach us at betweennerdspodcast@gmail.com, which is empty, just full of scam, phishing, and just, oh, you did good this week on Podbean. Cool.
Yeah. Here's your analytics for the week. Thanks. Mm-hmm. And don't forget to use this month's monthly hashtag. That is hashtag Tits for Nerds. That is TITSFORNERDS in an original tweet or Instagram post to be entered into our October giveaway. For every like and retweet on original posts that use hashtag Tits for Nerds, we will be donating to the El Paso Cancer Association.
Yeah, for every like and retweet, we'll be helping out, a good cause every month. So please just use it. We haven't gotten any usage of it, so
it's also breast cancer awareness month.
Correct, and it's spooky week next week.
Yeah. I'm hella spooky this week. I'm terrified.
We're having a little get together at your place.
Absolutely. I can't wait for Aldo Mendez to throw up in my pool.
I haven't thrown up in your face ever. Like, not on your face.
In my pool?
On your pool? I haven't
thrown up. Why do you want to throw up in my face?
Not in your face. I said in your face. Around your face, not on your face.
I haven't seen Aldo Mendez throw up in a year, and that's hella disappointing.
In a year, you've seen me throw up? I don't think you've ever seen me throw up. I don't lose my wits that easily.
The goal is to get Aldo Mendez to throw up. It's not about the wits. It's about your stomach lining.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm Mexican.
But to that point, I think we can get into the meat of this episode, if you'll let me. This week, or last week, technically, we watched the Studio Madhouse 2009 production of the film Redline.
Crazy stuff. Today's Thursday, by the way, nerds. You won't be getting this podcast until your weekly schedule 7 a.m. on Monday.
Thursday, October 21st.
Yeah. And Redline, goddamn, you've mentioned Redline throughout this whole entire 66 episodes. Here and there, you're like, oh shit, this shit's so crazy, whatnot. But I don't think you've revisited it ever since.
I haven't. Honestly, Redline is probably my favorite animation ever. It's not my favorite animated product. That's not what I'm trying to say. But if you were to put pen to paper and make what I would consider peak 2D animation, it's fucking Studio Madhouse Redline. You can't. The first time I saw it, it flopped. It totally flopped in the box office. Nobody even in Japan saw it. Mm-hmm. But the first time I saw it, I must have been an undergrad. So it must have been 2012, 2013. It just blew my mind. I was like, how the fuck is everyone not watching this all the time?
And from my understanding, it was supposed to debut during a film festival in Japan that also debuted Summer Wars in 2009 and May May Miracle, Yona Penguin, but it didn't because of further delays.
And I brought up Summer Wars too. Summer Wars is by the director of the first Digimon movie, and it looks exactly the same. Once you see it, it's those high, really bright, reds and blues and whites, contrasted with kind of this faded kind of Instagram filter over it, but it looks exactly the same, and it's almost the same premise, because the story to Summer Wars is somebody getting transported into the video game to do a battle royale-esque thing. Mm-hmm. But Redline is basically attributed to being one of the leading factors that made Studio Madhouse go bankrupt.
And not just bankrupt. I mean, you were telling me that not even they just went bankrupt, but everybody decided to leave.
Right, like
Top animators.
their top animators, the director of Redline went bankrupt, like lead producers went bankrupt, the guy that made the music score to Redline, it might be one of the best parts of it. Besides like this tier 1 S tier animation, like the music is excellent. Like you feel every moment because the music, it's not just mood music either. Mm-hmm. It's not Studio Ghibli pianos and violins. Like it's a soundtrack. It's real songs with choruses and like beating drums. It sounds like you're in the middle of like ADC sometimes. It's so wild.
I mean, it almost reminds me, when you bring up the music, it almost reminds me of like Cowboy Bebop.
Yes.
Which we know has great soundtrack.
Which isn't bad.
Yeah.
That was one of our first controversies on the podcast, was Cowboy Bebop.
And the music here, it never stops. It just puts you in the mood of whatever scene you're on. It leads you into scenes. It leads you into big emotions. It leads you into big premises in the story.
I like when characters have their own themes.
Absolutely.
Which we never really touched on in the Monogatari series, but every time certain characters come up, they have their own soundtrack leading up to it. But because Redline is so higher quality and had such a bigger budget at the time, people get like a whole fucking chorus behind them. Like, one of my favorite characters is Cherry Boy Hunter, Sonoshi. And she every time she's in the scene, she has like this little like pop tune in the background. It almost sounds like
a little fast jazz almost.
Yeah, it sounds like it, but like the vocals sound like an EDM Katy Perry or something. Like it's like this chirpy little pop voice in the background, but like the minute you hear it, you're just like, holy shit, she's about to punch out the Nas. Like, here we go.
Yeah, and what you were saying, it took 7 years of developing this fucking movie.
Yeah.
Worldwide, the box office, I'm looking here at $214,000.
That's nothing.
Which I'm pretty sure I can spend more than that in 7 years.
I could spend more than that in Vegas in a weekend.
Yeah. and I mean, it's just sad.
It's terrible.
It's so terrible.
And for listeners, I don't think you understand like who Studio Madhouse is or was before like they had to declare bankruptcy after Redline came out. Because like this is the Studio Madhouse. This is Perfect Blue. This is Ninja Scroll. This is Trigun. This is Black Lagoon. This is the Death Note. This is Studio Madhouse. Like, Studio Madhouse is seen as one of like the pinnacles of like early 2000s shonen anime. Like, everything that was a hit between like 2001 and 2008 came from Studio Madhouse.
You were telling me they did the pilot to Afro Samurai?
The director did.
The director did.
Like,
okay.
the director here is Takeshi Koike. He was a rising star, you know what I mean? And he has done interviews talking so much shit about the executives of Studio Madhouse because he almost sees them as like wasting his golden years almost. Like,
right.
the pinnacle of his career was wasted on something that didn't make any money.
Wow. But it is a great movie. It is a great movie. And if we want to touch on the question of what Redline is for me, it's a space dandy, what is the old Japanese speed racer, fucking what was that old Cartoon Network's cartoon with all the wacky races?
Yeah,
you know, so it's a combination of all with this big emphasis on like sexuality at the end. It was kind of weird that
it's like it's such like it feels like tripping on your own testosterone sometimes. You know what I mean? It's just like if I'm just gonna take like a shot of tea like straight to the veins right now, like immediately I'm gonna be like, I want to listen to loud music. I want to pump raise. I want to pump weights. I want to drive a V8 that's boosted to all hell. I want a bitch with big tits, and that's Redline. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like if you take the like Dragon Ball Z, throw it in cars, and then pump it with even more fake tests.
With some sexual innuendos?
Right, you get fucking Redline. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, the minute it hits.
The minute it starts.
It feels like you're tripping. Like, if you've ever, like, I don't even know. Like, it reminds me of, like, when I get lightheaded in the gym and like I'm just like lost in and of myself and I'm just tripping and I'm just like you're just lost in the moment. You know what I mean? When I'm watching football and if I'm watching Derrick Henry of the Titans, just ginormous person just bust through a bunch of big dudes, hit the end zone, and you hear like them being interviewed at the end. It's just like, how did that feel? I don't fucking know, man. I was just a big dude. I'm just running. I felt the pump. The crowd was cheering for me. That's how Redline feels for 90 fucking minutes. There's like 7 minutes where the tone is actually turned down, where you get like a little bit of exposition.
Mm-hmm. And that's like in between the movies. So Redline, the title of Redline, it's the name of the main race.
Right, but it's also a double entendre because redlining a car...
It's dangerous.
Is when you get to the red little fucking line on your RPM meter.
Yeah, correct. And this movie starts off with the yellow line race.
Right.
Which is a precursor to qualify for the red line race. Right. And everybody, it seems like there's this whole Star Wars pod racing kind of thing that if you don't make it, either you're gonna die or you're just gonna go hungry because there's no more money ever.
That's exactly how it feels. That's literally exactly how it feels. And it reminds me so much of the most recent Speed Racer like film adaptation, like the 2008 one.
I never saw that.
Bro, it's like 3.5 hours long. I remember.
What?
Bro, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. But it bombed in the box office because number one, like American audiences don't feel that strongly about Speed Racer. Don't feel, especially in 2008, didn't feel that strongly about like Asian media. I almost said Japanese media, but like Asian media in general at the time. Mm-hmm. But it's so much of the same, like just drifting over cliff tops,
flipping over gadgets.
Yeah, just shooting rocket launchers attached to chains out of your car, like ripping people's windshields off.
Mm-hmm. Some people like compare it to like the F Force or that game.
Yeah,
F Force races.
Yeah. What is it called? The one that fucking
Mr.
Falco punches from.
Yeah. And this anime, I mean, I mean, as you're starting watching, you're like, okay, it's fucking cars.
Right.
But then it starts, like, the plot starts unfolding. We follow Sweet JB, which is our main... Sweet JP, which is our main ducktail-haired protagonist here. It reminds me of, like, Space Dandy.
Right.
You know? And they're just having this crazy, batshit crazy race. But then the subplot? F-Zero, there you go. The subplot is that his best friend made a bet and is trying to rig the race because he's supposed to, like, if you're familiar with boxing, like, you know, people that throw the fights for money or the bets and shit like that. We know that his best friend, whose name is Frisbee, little green dude, he's talking to this mad, rich cocaine dude, just chugging cocaine.
And, like, it's so anime. Like, every character introduction for every villain introduced is so dramatic and just, like, at an 11, it's like, oh, I love it. Because, like, Frisbee is in debt with the mob. So, obviously, like, that's, like, the first thing to get Aldo Mendez involved with something. Like, you gotta mention that the mob's involved, right?
Yes.
So then, but the scene Aldo's describing is... Frisbee is on a couch with like this mob lord billionaire fucking underground tycoon kind of guy.
Old dude, almost at his deathbed.
Right, like he looks like he's 130 years old. They're watching the yellow line race on TV with Sweet JP like rushing up to first place. Like the plan is for JP to trail the whole race, get his betting rate low. Mm-hmm. So that if he were to win, like, you'd get a ginormous payout. Mm-hmm. So then he saves everything for the last 10 seconds, gets his bid all the way up, and then he throws at the last second so that people betting against him could, like, lose a bunch of money.
Correct. And that's how people in the mob make money.
Right. So, but the scene Alder's describing where this villain's introduced, where I don't think they ever give his name. He's just rich fucking billionaire asshole. Mm-hmm. Some girls just show up with what looks like a 1 foot diameter little canteen thing. He rips it open. It's a white powder, right? I'm assuming to believe it's Coke.
Could be sugar, it could be salt.
Yeah, he dips like a handful in there, just rips it out and just starts rubbing his gums with it. Uh-huh. And you're just like that?
He doesn't sniff it. He doesn't sniff it in front of him because he's classy.
What kind of Sopranos bullshit is this? Just like...
And to make it clear, JP, right? JP?
Yes.
JP does not throw the race.
No. He wants to win.
Yeah, that's his thing. He wants to get as fast as possible into first place and just fucking win that shit.
And what's also cool about like the canon of this universe is they have like their own version of like a nitro charge, which is like a physical little metal pill that they dump into the tank of their engine in like when they do it, JP puts this yellow little pill inside of a container of a liquid, and as soon as it hits like the center, it starts jolting with a bunch of electricity, and then you just see the engine just going fucking crazy. And the first time it happens, the animation style like stalls out for a second. It's just like the car's just jumping around, nothing else is moving that quickly. It's just like, what's happening? Is it gonna happen? Is it gonna happen? The car just jumps up, and then just like a bolt of fucking lightning just takes the fuck off.
And the way it's animated to show you that this pill boost for the car, it's so incredible that you see the animation stretch out, like if this guy was going like
warp speed or some bullshit.
Speed, and you can see the entire car like even like bending at an angle, angles that are really hard to animate, and we know like, we know this from Acura.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
because a lot of animations can't really draw something at an angle because it doesn't look right. You can't put the shades there correctly, but this, it doesn't use shades to their animation style. It uses brightness to their animation style, if that makes any sense.
Which is so crazy. It looks so fluorescent and bright, like...
And everything is in movement. I mean, once he puts that pill, the NOS pill in there, his sweat that you don't see when he's going regular speed, his sweat drips in his car, they start to move back, his cheeks are starting to move back, like this fool might as well be on a fucking rocket.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, you know, they're fucking space cars.
Yeah, and that's like the joke. It's supposed to be a Trans Am, like a regular fucking
car,
American car Trans Am, right? But then the cars around him are these ginormous fucking floating machines, fucking tanks on wheels. It's just
like weight to torque ratio does not mean anything here.
Nothing. And like, who gives? Like, that's what's funny too. Like, they just. It's like that episode that we were discussing about Star Wars Visions, the Studio Trigger episode where they just like forgot physics existed, and they're just fighting on top of a spaceship because like who needs to breathe? What is air and gravity? Mm-hmm. It's like the same thing here. It's like you just want to see some cool shit go zoom in a straight line? Let's fucking do it.
And I mean, it's this movie. You're barely 20 minutes into the movie, and it's just the whole last yellow line race.
Yeah.
And now that the plot is unfolding a little bit more, we go back to Frisbee. I think our mob cocaine guy, his name is Inuki.
Oh, is that his name?
It's never mentioned. But Inuki is the fucking cocaine guy that is making moves.
Okay.
And his conversation with Frisbee is like, "Are you sure this guy's gonna throw?
Is your boy gonna do it, Frisbee? We're really worried the mob's gonna lose a bunch of money if he loses this."
And Frisbee has a gun pointed at him like the entire fucking time he's sitting down.
It's ridiculous.
And he's like, "Oh yeah, don't worry, my boy got it. My boy got it." And as this fucking race is going on, we see Sonoshi. We see Sonoshi getting trailed off. Sonoshi. We see Sonoshi getting trailed off the main track, but her car turns into like this fucking speedboat, and she's fucking racing right next to like their fucking cars.
And the thing about this movie is it is a high-powered film. Like, they don't want to give you a bunch of exposition. They don't want to give you everybody's backstory right away. They really don't want to flesh it out because they want it to be action-filled. So the thing about Sonoshi that we end up finding out, though, which, like, one of my favorite female character models ever.
Yeah, absolutely. She looks great. Might as well be, like, something in JoJo's.
Yeah. Like, short, pink bobbed hair. Well, it's got, like, a pink undertone, but then it's, like, this bright-ass green on the outside.
Correct. And I don't know if that's just shading, the shading style that they wanted to go, but...
Which is great. But, like, the thing about Sonoshi, too, is that she's shown to be her own mechanic. She is driving, like, this 5-ton fucking floating machine. And it floats. But compared to all these other characters that we end up meeting that are driving these extravagant cars, she built her own machine. Like, she's an engineer first, and she just so happens to be good at racing.
And she wants to be racing. Because later on, we get, like, this little backstory that they've always been into racing.
Right.
And like I said, this is like a Star Wars pod racing kind of thing, that the only way to get out of the slums is to, like, be a good fucking racer.
Mm-hmm.
And as JP and Sonoshi are getting to the finish line in this yellow line race, we notice that JP put another booster pill in his car, and now Frisbee in the fucking meeting room has now 2 fucking guns pointed at his head, and he's like, "Yo, bro," he's like, "Don't worry about it." And Frisbee, his alleged best friend, gets like this detonator and just hits it and fucks JP up. He fucks up one of his tires out.
Yeah, we do get an X-ray screenshot inside of JP's car that there's a bomb in there. And the JP knew the plan was that he had to throw the brakes. He had to go from last place to first place and then just lose at the end.
But that's not JP.
But that's not JP. Like, he's a winner. You know what I mean? He's just like, holy fuck, I'm gonna win it. He's just going for it. And then that's we're 20 minutes in, like you're describing, Aldo, and I already feel discouraged for him that, like, he's all of 10 feet from the finish line, and his car blows up, and he's just flipping in the air for, like, a good 2 whole minutes, but they're driving at such fast speeds that everyone else just, like, beats him to the finish line.
And as this car, I mean, let alone the booster pills, like, it looks like the car's about to fucking blow up.
Yeah.
Like, at any minute. But as the rig bomb goes off in his car lounging forward, they almost take it as he could win the race as his exploding in fucking midair.
Yeah.
So they're like, holy shit, I might have, like, detonated too early or too late. Now he might win the race just because I exploded his fucking tire forward.
Yeah.
And, well, fucking Frisbee's shitting bricks over here because, you know, he's supposed to lose the race. But then Frisbee, knowing his best friend JP, he's like, he's never gonna throw the race. So I needed to put a fucking rig bomb in his fucking car.
And it's kind of a cool friendship, though, because, like, the next scene is JP was just in a car crash going 1,000 miles per hour, so, like, it's anime, so, like, I'm expected to believe he didn't get whiplash, which, like, makes no sense. But he's got a broken leg and a broken arm, right? Mm-hmm. He's in the hospital. He's watching the racing coverage. He's watching everybody on the news shit on him, be like, hey, this nerd blew up his fucking car. Because no one else but Frisbee actually knows what happened. Mm-hmm. And the Frisbee comes in with a giant fucking suitcase of money. He's just like, hey, good job out there. And JP's kind of, like, talking shit. He's like, hey, are you done with the mob now? Like, are your debts paid off? Because what we end up learning later on is Frisbee is in debt with the mob because he took out a loan with the mafia to soup up one of JP's cars. Mm-hmm. JP fucked up that race. That one he did fuck up on his own. Mm-hmm. So now Frisbee's just kind of in debt to the fucking mob because he tried to help his boy, who he's also the main mechanic for.
Mm-hmm. And JP... It seems like he knows about the rig. It seems like he knows about the bomb, but he doesn't really has a heart felt for him because JP again needs to almost get his boy out of the mob's tab.
Which is, it's like, it's funny how they're just like cycling into like being further indebted to the mob, even though they are trying to help each other.
Mm-hmm. But they did lose that race. Yeah. But then. In the hospital room, we see that all this fucking press people and the media are trying to rush into JP's room because 2 of the racers got disqualified.
They quit. Because, so, to qualify for Redline, you had to qualify for Yellow Line. It's like NASCAR. You have to get a certain amount of points, and then you can qualify for the cup at the end. It's like soccer in that same way, right? Mm-hmm. So then... the racing association announces that Redline is going to be at a planet called Robo World. Robo World is fucking Taliban-led Afghanistan. They're like, if you fucking come in here, we're blasting anybody that even sets foot on this planet.
And I brought up this subject to you that it reminded me of like how like the Olympics work.
Yeah,
and like, I'm not hating on Robo World's like point of view. It's like, no, motherfuckers, like, don't come here and have this crazy ass race.
These assholes don't like us anyways. Why are we going to be welcoming to them?
And I don't know. It just reminded me of like poor countries losing so much tax-paying money and like all these fucking contributions just to.
It reminds me a lot of like how the United Nations treats like Iraq. You know what I mean? Because Iraq is poor, they're trying to do well by themselves, but they can't even like sustain a military without the rest of the world being like, "Hey, what the fuck are you doing? You need to slow that shit down." So there's a subplot line in the middle of the Redline race that's about like secret weapons of mass destruction being hidden on Robo World, which end up being found out. But right here, what I'm describing is these two racers that qualified for Redline drop out, and they do interviews, and they're like, "No, dude, like Robo World's gonna blow our shit up. I'm not risking that shit. I'm not gonna win anyways. It's not worth it."
Yeah, because they're hostile. They're hostile.
It's literally a hostile nation, and Redline's so like FIFA World Cup about it. They're like, "I don't give a shit, bro. I want to
play soccer there."
Yeah, I'm gonna play soccer there. Fucking bet. Do you know how much money I have? I'll make it happen. Which is the exact same concept here, because the racing association just goes for it, and JP qualified next in terms of points, so he was able to move up,
and now he's excited.
Yeah, now all of a sudden he's excited, and this giant case of money that Frisbee brought to him in the hospital room, he's just like, "Take it back, build me a machine. We're fucking racing. We're doing it."
And we introduced to the old man Mole, who is like the spider character that is like the main mechanic for their team.
Right. Okay, maybe I'm getting their titles wrong. Because, yeah, Mole's like the engineer, but then Frisbee's the mechanic? Or one's an engineer, one's a mechanic. They tried describing it at a certain point, but it almost feels like the same job. Frisbee both gets the equipment and has to soup it up so that it fits the rest of the equipment. Old Man Mole is literally just a mechanic, like out here like tightening bolts and nuts and shit and putting tires on the bitch.
Yeah, and he's like, "What do you mean you want me to put this fucking death machine together?" It's like, "Yeah, just put it together. We're gonna blow some shit up."
The amount of world building that they're able to do just through animation, because of how fucking gorgeous it looks, is so... Oh, it's so good. Like, it's frustrating how good it is. Because, like, so to go to Robo World has moons... You know, multiple moons like Jupiter or Saturn or something.
Jupiter.
Like that. Jupiter. But on one of these moons are refugees, right? Which, again, sounds like every other country ever. They just have to seclude the refugees off-world. But there's crime there because they're not being regulated by the main Robo-World government. Which is where the racers meet up like a few days before the Redline race. So JP flies in on a little shuttle. He crash lands, but the whole community is like broken. They're trying to scam him the minute he gets off the shuttle. It's just like, "Hey man, you trying to buy some tickets? I swear these are real tickets. You want to spend some? You want to bet some money on Sonashi? I got you, man."
Or like some blacked out taxis or some shit like that, like to move around. Yeah, like shit you see.
He gets scammed out of cigarettes.
Yeah, and when we get to this world. The entire plotline from here on is just like the deadline to the Redline race,
right?
And we start seeing a little bit more. They get invited to this club because they're the racers, right?
They weren't I can't remember if they were invited or not, but there's a fancy restaurant. It's a seafood place that's like a converted space shuttle, and it's got like giant aquariums and like fancy shit like that. And so JP checks in with his crew, who's Frisbee and Old Man Mole. He sees that they're fucking around, and JP isn't very technical, so he's like, "Okay, I'm gonna go fuck off. Y'all do whatever you gotta do." But he remembers Cherry Boy Hunter Sonashi from Yellow Line, who's like obviously like the 10 seconds in, she's gonna be like the female interest, right? And he recognizes like her car or something outside of the restaurant, goes in, sees her eating, and just kind of like butts in. He's just like, "Hey girl, what's up?" And sits down, and the waiter's all fucking with him. He's like, "Get your stupid greaser hair out of here. I'm trying to hang out with Sonashi." But it's such a dramatic scene that happens next because other racers show up.
Mm-hmm.
And the dramatic part there is that they're ex soldiers for the Robo World Army. So certain officers in the Robo World Army already want to kick their ass.
Mm-hmm.
So here comes to the restaurant members of the Robo World Army and just start blowing up the place. And it's super dramatic already. Like it's trying to like tease you and like what the actual Redline race is going to be like.
And the animation is always in motion. I mean, waiters in the back, the aquarium moving, the music, the little small music tunes in the background with each character as this restaurant scene is going on. Like you said, we have the Colonel Voltron, right? Or Volton?
Yeah, Volton.
And they're having like a conversation like, God damn it, this fucking people trying to race here, we have to do something about it. And this is where it reminds me so much about like Speed Racer, because I don't know if you remember Speed Racer, but it was always like, oh, you have to race against a fucking erupting volcano or like a massive tsunami or shit like that.
Because it adds stakes to the race, because it's not only are you trying to win, but like shit's blowing up around you. Like you're gonna die if you don't stay in motion.
And here, I think one of the main racers walks in, which is the super mechanical guy. I think it's Gory Rider.
No. It's it's the current champion.
Machine Head.
Yeah, Machine Head.
Yeah.
It's like fucking Tom Brady of racing in this universe.
He's like a piston man.
Yeah, just like this immortal fucking superhuman being who has transformed his body so that he can just race forever. And he's won Redline like 12 fucking times. Like this race, everyone keeps saying like, holy shit, people die every year in Redline. And this Machine Head guy is just whooping everybody's ass without even trying.
And we have a lot of side characters. And again, like you said, this is not trying to give you a lot of exposition on what the fuck is going on. They're just... It's almost like the night before Redline that this is happening. And there's more days in between, but it just seems so quick to the point.
Right.
And we see some the yellow character from Demon Slayer, the one that cries and gets angry and he gets stronger. We see like this
Zenitsu.
We see like this other shrimp person racer that is trying to hit up on Sinochi, or what's her name?
What's also hilarious is that there's most of these racers are teams. It's the driver and like a support person. And one of them is like fucking Batman and Robin. You know what I mean? Like if they were part of fucking high-powered pod racing. Mm-hmm. Where the racing committee, like government entity, fucking FIFA, sends them to space to sabotage Robo World's like giant fucking nuclear beam blast. Mm-hmm. Because the racing commission wants the race to happen no matter what, right? Mm-hmm. So we do get this really crazy scene of Batman and Robin like busting into this high-powered satellite and just doing these crazy flips and like just... It's so dramatic. It's just so extra. It's like JoJo's, but it's even quicker because it's just 90 minutes. Like it's trying to shove a whole world into just
a whole premise, yeah.
Yeah, a whole premise, a whole world of backstory just into these 90 fucking minutes. And it's just, it's like that movie Crank.
Yes.
Just nonstop, just shoving in your face, just cool shit. It's just like, was that cool enough, pussy? Well, here's some more. And it's just force feeding you. Just dope animation the whole time.
And we start seeing like a lot more like Robo Army, the Robo World Army, which it just seems like a whole like swastika-ish army.
I think the government is led by the military, which also reminds me of the Nazis a little bit. Mm-hmm. But they're all like it's Robo World, so they're all like humanoid. They have like living skin, you see it, but they all have these very dramatic like robot augmentations to them,
like big crazy bionic eyes, big crazy bionic arms.
They all have these like helmets fused to their fucking faces.
Jaws, yeah, you're right. They have like this bionic jaws. Most of them have that. We have like this character that looks like Galactus. And what I told you is when I was watching, I was like, I knew this guy was gonna be like a big character in the movie. Because later on, because we see the Colonel Volton just talking smack all the time.
Yeah.
Oh, god damn it!
No, that's the president.
That's the president.
That's Roboworld president.
Oh, yeah, Roboworld president. He's just talking shit to his main man, and he's just like,
Who's Colonel Volton?
Who's Colonel Volton? He's like, why aren't we doing anything else? Our machine's not working because Batman and Robin came in and disabled the goddamn thing. We need to fucking we need to build machines to sabotage this fucking race.
Their names are Lynchman and Johnny.
And Johnny.
Yeah. But yeah, to that point, it's so fucked up because so after that encounter at the seafood restaurant, JP kind of introduces himself to Sonoshi, like obviously he's trying to hit up on her. And he kind of flirts with her, she loses her earring, he drops it off in the middle of the night. Like, it's cute shit, you know what I mean? And you see her, like, kind of maybe developing a crush, and we get an excuse to see 2D tits for some reason. I don't know why.
It's great.
But, so she's watching TV the night he drops off the earrings she lost the night before at the seafood restaurant. But on TV, of course, it's just Redline coverage. And they're like, going into the troubled past of Sweet Boy JP. He was in juvie, and he got tied up with the mob, and him and his best friend Frisbee have been in and out of prison. So now it's just like, God, it's like, it's like how you're not supposed to talk shit about your friend when he's hitting up on a girl. Just like, hey, remember when you pissed yourself a week ago because you were so drunk? Like, shut up, bro, shut up. But
she's watching this on the TV.
Yeah, except she's watching this on TV and she's like, I wanted to like him too. Why is this happening?
And, I mean, she doesn't really care. Because
she does and she doesn't.
Yeah, but yeah, like she doesn't really care because I mean
she didn't know him yet, so she's like, oh, whatever. Like
they did have an encounter right before when they were young,
right? So we get like a flashback right about here that's not only going to JP and Frisbee's backstory about how like when they were younger they were watching like little pod races of children and just like cheering them up, but they were broke, you know what I mean? So they couldn't afford stuff like that, and they're watching Sonoshi in a pod race, like completely just pile drive her little pod into
like this curve,
into a curve, and she's all crying and she's like, "Shut up, you fucking losers! Don't laugh at me. I'm just trying to win. You guys are never gonna amount to anything."
She crashes. Then because Sonoshi is so driven, like she drags her car out of that curve piled of tires. I don't know if you've seen that like in races where they just pile up tires for bounciness.
Yeah.
And like she's dragging her car out. And
so you're not crashing into a whole ass wall.
Exactly. And like she's dragging her car out. She's like, because they were just barely starting to talk shit about Sonoshi just driving into this curb. And she's like, fuck you guys. I just telling them this. She's pulling out her car and getting back into the race while she just lost like 7 places in that little child pod race thing that they were going on.
Yeah.
So this is where JP kind of had his crush on her.
Yeah, they're trying to tie it together because it's again like it's such a quick paced movie. Like if they're trying to set up this romance, it wouldn't feel authentic if there wasn't some kind of backstory to them.
And it's funny that you say romance because I would pin it more of like sexual tension.
It's romance. Shut up.
You can call it what you want, sexual tension, romance, but the ending of this movie makes me believe it's sexual tension. But we'll get to that later. As this goes, as Redline starts getting closer, they start announcing more racers. We get like the Gear Sisters or whatever their names are. These two very fan servicey designed racing partners.
Right. There's like there's an entire like planet and civilization of like fairy princesses or something like that, and they're the ones that are helping the racing committee like run this race. It's like, how the fuck are they even gonna land on RoboWorld? And these two girls are part of a racing team, like I was describing earlier. Except like you're talking about, they're super tall, all legs and tits, like
the tightest clothes they could get on them.
Yeah, but not even that. They're doing like a racing interview, and they're not even wearing clothing. They're wearing like jackets and just like panties. So, like, there's, like, a fan servicey shot where, like, they just have to flip their legs from one side to the other. Because if their legs are crossed, like, your right leg's over your left leg, just directing style, they make them switch which leg's on the top. So, like, you get, like, a panty shot for, like, half a second.
Which is I think it is an homage to this old movie, about the girl that is getting interviewed by the FBI, and she is the killer. I can't remember the name of it, but do you remember the documentary "Don't Fuck with Cats"?
No. Yes. You
know that guy, he was obsessed with an actress.
Yes.
Because of a movie.
Yes.
That's the movie I'm talking about.
Oh, honestly, it's always reminded me of just how like sexually repressed like Japanese people come off, and how like I'll never forget like the Vice documentary about like the sex trade in Japan. That's not the sex trade. It's like everything related around being like weird and lonely and horny, like cuddle cafes or like dating cafes or like shit like that. To me, it's always come off as just like it's a declining population. Like there aren't enough people actually like hooking up and stuff. I don't know.
In this American movie that forgot the name of, she is getting interrogated by the FBI, and as she's getting interrogated, she has her legs crossed, smoking a cigarette, and she does the doing the crossover, switching legs, but she's not wearing any panties. So she's trying to like distract.
Oh, what movie is that? I forget what I was watching, but I was watching something on YouTube about like times directors or studios got sued by actors or actresses, and that was one of them. She didn't know that they were going to record that. Because the director lied to her and was just like, yeah, like, you're not wearing panties right now, but we're not going to put that in the movie, whatever. She sued over that.
Oh, wow. Well, yeah, it's something, something suspects, usual suspects. No, not usual suspects. It's a movie from the 90s. But yes, it is. That's what I thought as soon as I saw this.
Right. It turns out, I just Google-fied it. It was Basic Instinct. It was Sharon Stone.
Yes. And that's what it reminded me of, which is good in a way.
Well, I am not okay with her being sexually assaulted and her vagina being put on screen without consent.
Without consent, yeah. You said she sued. That's crazy. I didn't know that.
No, yeah. Like that director is like barred from Hollywood.
Oh shit! Really?
No, it's super unethical, bro. Like everyone's pissed about that.
Absolutely.
But yeah, that's exactly what this reminds us of. Because so the gimmick to getting these racers on RoboWorld are these Boeing sisters or whatever the fuck they're called. Are their princess is also magical powered, so she can transport an entire spaceship through dimensions.
The entire FIFA?
Yeah, the entire FIFA race, the entire F-Zero like plethora comes down. So it's like she can remote control like speed racing pods or like little spaceships, right? So they draw the finish line over the RoboWorld capital, which is like some ballsy shit in and of itself.
It's like building a stadium in a poor community in Brazil.
Except they're poor and they can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
So anyways, the president of RoboWorld is talking to his generals and like, those fucking assholes, how are they even gonna get up here? They can't fucking come up here. And then out of nowhere, out comes this spaceship out of interdimensional travel, and everyone's just like, congrats, princess, you just did interdimensional space travel, and they really drop the racers in their giant pod racers, like, through the spaceship that just came in between dimensions.
And the track as well, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like, parts of the track, because they are using some of the geographics of the planet itself, but they gave
them a map of RoboWorld. Because at a certain point, like, you hear the president of RoboWorld being like, how the fuck do they even know how to get there? Our layout's supposed to be super high security and, like, all this stuff. They're gonna figure out RoboWorld secrets if they make it all the way out here to the capital. And it's crazy when it happens. Like, imagine if, like, FIFA really had the balls to just, like, go into the middle of Afghanistan and be like, yep, this is where it's happening. This is the World Cup right here.
Missile-themed fucking stadium.
Oh, it's so wild. And there's when they were still at the remote planet before the race started, there was a piece of dialogue between the old man Frisbee and JP, where Frisbee's like, yeah, we need to get a stove so big that it can fit 3 of these turbo caps. And old man is just like, dude, that's gonna kill him. That is going to kill JP. It's gonna explode in his face and he is going to die. And even JP's like, Frisbee, can you really do it? Can you get a stove that big, bro? Can you really? I want to drive that machine. And Frisbee, knowing his boy's a fucking crackhead for racing, is just like, bro, I can do it. If you want it, I got you.
It's funny that now that we talk about it, it reminded me of like the Ford versus Ferrari movie.
Yes.
You know, how that driver, I can't remember that driver's name, but he was like, fuck yeah, bro, I'll fucking
Batman?
do it. Yeah, fucking Christian Bale's
Crackhead. Exactly.
Yeah.
JP is Christian Bale in Ford versus Ferrari. He's like, I'll race anything, pussy. Like, as long as I get to go first. Like, I don't give a shit.
And it just, and then, as all this craziness is happening, beautifully animated, because everything is in motion, light is in motion, shades are in motion, their faces are in motion.
They put the giant stove in the car.
They do put the giant stuff in the car.
Which is terrifying. The one scene that they show it, like, in motion, like, it looks like not Metal Gear, but what's that, like, 2D video game where everything was super in motion? Metal Gear Slug or something.
Oh, yeah. Metal Slug.
Metal Slug, thank you.
Yeah.
It looks like that, where just like every piece of machinery is in motion. Once they turn the car on and you see the engine Frisbee got, the whole thing's fucking shaking, and you're just like, JP's gonna drive that way?
I'll do you one better. It's like the fucking House Castle, or
yes,
yeah, in motion.
Like how in Howl's Moving Castle, every piece of machinery is just shaking and in motion. It's exactly like that.
Yeah, and
JP just gets like a hard on for it. He's like, fuck yeah, like I get this.
And he rides his heart onto the rest of the movie. But then we have like this as JP and all the other racers and the entire fucking racetrack is being transported to Robo World from the moon of whatever they were staying at. JP and the mall man, they're having a conversation like, yo, bro, you really gonna do him like that again? And the mole man is talking to Frisbee. He's like, well, it's because things are getting heated and people are pressuring me and they decided to put another bomb in fucking JP's car.
Well, honestly, Mole told him not to.
Mm-hmm.
Old man Mole was like, yo, you're not gonna fuck with JP. Like, JP's excited. You just saw him get wet for this fucking car. Like, you need to quit your shit. And Frisbee's whole thing as the engineer is he needs to tune the car because they just put a fucking jet engine inside of a Trans Am.
A smart car?
Yeah, inside of a smart car, so he's got to tune the bitch somehow. I don't know. So, but yeah, he does plant the bomb in the thing. But Old Man Mole is smart enough to like realize Frisbee did that, and that comes up like at the end of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Which, like, Old Man Mole is probably JP's best friend, like, for real.
He has the best intentions for him, because as Mole Man is building and putting together this fucking death machine, he also has like a passion for the thing that he just put together.
Yeah.
You know? And it's almost like, okay, not only are you fucking him over, you're fucking the work that I just did to put this fucking death machine together.
I don't know why, but have you seen, it was last year or 2 years ago already, you know who Banksy is? Okay. Did you see his painting that went for auction maybe a year,
shredded?
2 years ago?
Yes.
It half shredded, right?
Yeah.
But then, like, Banksy's shredding machine broke halfway through. So, Banksy made a piece of art, and he knows all of his shit, like, blows up no matter what, and he doesn't make any money off it, because it goes to auction, and people that own the original artwork, like, make 10 times their money off it. And Banksy's whole statement is he's always been against capitalism, against, like, he's always against the big man, always for the little man, right? That's what the under theme for all of his works have always been. Mm-hmm. And Banksy, being such an artist, he put a work to auction a few years ago, but it was a super average work. But just because it had the name Banksy on it, people are going to spend tens of millions of dollars on it.
Right. It was the one with the little girl and the balloon.
Right. Mm-hmm. It could be anything. It looks like a fucking Supreme clothing design, which is like ironic because the point of Supreme is that it's so ugly and plain that it's funny that people spend that much money on it. Mm-hmm. So at the auction house, this thing starts shredding.
As it sells.
Yeah,
as somebody sells, sold to $40 million over there with this big dude.
The painting starts going through the shredder, but it broke halfway through. So it's half shredded, half not shredded.
And now it's an art piece on itself.
Right, so it sold for like $160 million like 2 weeks ago. And that's what this reminds me of, like Old Man Mole, like so proud of his machine, so proud of his piece of work, his art, that somebody else is going to like capitalize on it. I don't know why it reminded me of that, but it did.
It's right to It's right that it reminded you of that, because it almost feels the same way.
It feels the exact same way. But so the race starts. The racers jump down out of this machine that jumped out of hyperspace. Right before they splashed down, JP tried talking to Crab Sonoshi and tried flirting with her a little bit, but she saw that he's like kind of a criminal and is like he has a troubled past, so she kind of blows him off and he's like, oh, okay, whatever. Well,
it's like social points.
Yeah. I'm gonna just try my best. So they go, and it's just like immediately, the president of RoboWorld is just like, throw the fucking machines at them. So the people of RoboWorld, as half machines, their military can like Matrix style, like put themselves inside of a machine. Like it's the same thing from the Matrix. Like a tube goes into the back of their neck, like sucks them up. They jolt, and then they're controlling like a speed racer, a racing, like an X-wing fighter, or a tank. There's like
an Avatar.
Yeah, there's like 3 different weapons they throw at them, and immediately the racers are subjugated to like being under fire by the RoboWorld military.
And it's like what I said before with the whole speed racer theme of like racing against like an erupting volcano. This is where it starts unfolding.
And it's so wild to see because, like we were describing earlier, there's a racer
Machine Head?
Not Machine Head, Traga. Traga is like this fuzzy blue guy who ran away from the RoboWorld military. So then there's this one member or colonel or somebody that's part of the RoboWorld military that's trying to point out just Traga, and he's trying to fucking murder him. Mm-hmm. And you see him crying and being like, where the fuck is Traga? I'm gonna murder his ass. And it's not only that. At that same exact time, there's people that are in like mining costumes, like fucking Gundam looking costumes that are trying to uncover like RoboWorld's secret weapons that are underground so that they can make the race more exciting.
And like that plot point doesn't make any sense because the movie's trying to tell you that the race is the main point of the movie.
Right.
But it goes into like this, we need to figure it out what the Nazis are doing.
Yeah.
And they do, and they don't. Because they do have, like, this crazy weapon that the Nazis are like, we're not going to use this.
Which is stolen straight from Akira.
Exactly.
It's the exact villain from Akira.
It reminds me of the newest Suicide Squad with Starro.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this is literally the character design of what's his face turned into at the end of Akira.
Big mechanical baby?
Yes, big mechanical bioform baby thing. Because... what we haven't even described is one of the racers is like an ex-cop who's like also on the run from his precinct because he's hooking up with his partner, who's a giant big-breasted woman who's also cheating on her husband to hang out with Gory Rider. But his car runs underground. And that's how he's going to win the race. Because at a certain point in the race, they're going over a minefield. And he's just going to run under it, right? But he ends up finding the secret underground location where they're keeping, I think they call him like Joy Baby or something like that. It reminds me of like Joy Boy. Uh-huh. And he unlocks this giant bioweapon that screams exactly like the baby from Akira did. And lets out this giant fucking nuclear blast. And... one of the funniest, a couple of the funniest characters are the announcers for Redline, which are so fucking hilarious because it reminds me of like, when like I'm on YouTube and I see like crazy soccer players from the 90s, you don't expect what they did. They were all fucking juiced on cocaine and just like all these Argentinian players like Diego Maradona. They're just like juiced out of their mind on like the purest Colombian cocaine, right?
And it's weird because these characters, these announcer characters, it's like they come from their own ESPN world.
Oh, it's so wild. But like what's hilarious is they start telling jokes about them being juiced. I'm tweaking so hard, my teeth are itching. I'm here for Redline. Blah, 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 blah.
I can't even keep my eyes straight, and like their jaws are like.
It's so funny. It's so hilarious, and it reminds me of like imagine what the animators or the directors were thinking of. It took 7 years to make this fucking movie. You're going bankrupt. The company that's employing you is basically telling you, "Hey, we don't have any money to pay you at the end of this." Like they're probably juiced on Adderall and all this fucking bullshit just like, I gotta draw this cell one more time.
Or good old Japanese work ethic.
No, there's no way. They were they were juicing them with methamphetamines. There's no fucking way. They were all on fucking Vyvanse for all I know.
And you're right. You said like, how come you didn't find the commentators as funny as I did? I did, but I was trying to pay attention to like the rest of the entire plot.
It's just so. But you're right. Like the minute you try to focus on one thing, it moves on.
Yeah, and these commentators are just like, holy shit! Look at that fucking car. That shit is so crazy. It reminds me of the bumps I did last time. Like
that shit is vibrating harder than my bike's vibrator.
Yeah. And it's hilarious because I mean the race already started. We're like 10 seconds into the race and shit's already off the shit.
Just off the shit. There's X-wing fighters going after the racers. There's these giant tricycles going after the racers. There's a giant bioweapon baby dropping nuclear blasts everywhere.
At one point, we see one of the racers ditch his car and run towards another car.
Yeah, it's Batman.
It's Batman?
It's Batman. It's Lynchman.
It's Lynchman, and he goes and gets into a car mid-race.
Which is like so hilarious when you think about it, because they've established that these cars are going like Mach 2, right? So for this man to get flipped up in the air so hard by a blast from the Roboworld military, they've flipped out of his car, and he can still whole ass like sprint back into the hood of his car. It's hilarious. It's so extra and funny, and it's just. It makes me so sad that Madhouse was never Madhouse after this movie came out.
It's wild because me as an anime enjoyer, you can never tell me that, oh, you should watch this racing fucking anime. To me, that's like, really? But this on its own, it's so... all the elements of what anime is, they put it together so good and so quickly, and they don't try to bullshit you with their science or anything like that. It's a great watch.
Like, it's not like fucking Godzilla Singular Point, where it gives you so much time and space to pick apart, like, every piece of the plot. It's like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean you're picking apart that plot point? That was 30 seconds ago. We're on to the next thing, bro. There's no time.
And again, the car for JP's vehicle, it doesn't change. It looks like a regular fucking car. Well,
except this time it has 3 wheels.
Yeah.
So we know it's not a real Trans Am.
Yeah. And that's what they do, because they put like a Trans Am shell on them.
Which is dumb, because we know that the Trans Am body, like, it looks like a fucking Dodge Challenger, like it's all flat in the front. It's not aerodynamic for shit. Mm-hmm. They just made it look like a Trans Am because JP just loves Trans Ams.
And back to the point of like the Roboworld fucking Matrix controlling their vehicles and shit like that.
Yeah.
Machine Head, now we see the big bad that we saw at the restaurant scene. Now we see him like full geared, and he's controlling his vehicle through his arms, his legs, like he's morphing throughout like this race.
The announcers announce him as half man, half machine.
Mm-hmm. And it's wild because it's such a OP character at this point.
Oh, it's so good. It's like playing Castlevania, and they tell you you're fighting literal, you're fighting a literal vampire. You're fighting the vampire lord. How are you going to beat him? That's exactly how it feels going into this. It's just like, dude, JP's driving like this tiny itty bitty fucking car, and he's going to fight that? There's no way.
And as this fucking race is going, I mean, we have we started off with 10 racers maybe.
Yeah.
And half of them are already dead.
Honestly, it's only like 6 cars.
6 cars? Okay.
Believe it or not, because they're in pairs, remember?
Oh, that's right. A lot of them are in pairs. Not everybody.
Yeah.
Most JP and Sonochi, they're alone. Machine Head is alone.
They turn into a pair, and that's the exciting part, because after like the giant Joy Boy baby fucking comes out, the Roboworld military is able to get their giant explosion nuclear cannon that Batman and Robin had blown up the night before to finally work, right? So they shoot it at the giant nuclear baby thing. They explode it, and they're like, okay, we're all right. Now the entire universe knows our military secrets, but at least like this nuclear baby won't destroy the planet. And then he reforms right away because it's fucking Akira, right? Like one cell survives. It's like Wolverine. The whole thing just comes back.
It reminds me of like the Blob or like the thing.
Exactly. And so one of the craziest pieces of animation in the entire movie that's just wild ass animation is Colonel Voltan, the main guy we saw arguing with the president of Roboworld in the beginning.
Didn't the president get like mutiny? He got killed or some shit at some point?
Not yet. Oh. Right here, Colonel Voltan goes to another bioweapon that Roboworld has, which is seen as like a virus almost. It's like the Matrix. And Colonel Voltan's talking to this thing in this vat of liquid, and it's just like, oh, you want some of my data? Well, you can have it, but we gotta go destroy the baby. And he turns into this giant blue whale squid symbiote fucking bullshit thing that like eats the nuclear baby, which when you're watching it and you're trying to make sense of it, just like we described, it makes no sense, but like that's the point.
And it's going so fast.
Yeah, it's just extra bullshit, and you're just like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. Like, what is happening right now?
And not only that, but Boy and Boss, which are the sisters, they turn their car into like this fucking
They turn into a Gundam. They turn into a Gundam with tits because it's a car, and the fingers were like little bullets, and like it's shaped to go forward, like you're like lunging forward or something. But they get knocked down, and at a certain point they're like, "Should we transform? We should transform." And they have their own music, right? Which is like this little pop tune, and it turns into like a little pink robot that's doing like JoJo poses and shit.
And they decide to do that because they're under attack from the Robo World fucking militia or whatever, and they decide to stall their racing and like come to a complete stop to like fight these monsters. But it is fucking great.
And over this whole backdrop, we're seeing Frisbee talking with the same mob boss from before. And you see the mob boss write a check for like $2 trillion or some crazy bullshit number. And Frisbee's just like, hold on, we gotta let JP win. We gotta let JP win. And the mob boss is just like, do you see how much fucking money is on this check, Frisbee? Like, you need to stop fucking around and just accept this money. And Frisbee like, I'll take it right now. I'll take it right now. It doesn't matter. Because he wants his boy to win at the end of the day. Like, he sees, like, how he survived, like, all these, He skipped over a lake, which we didn't even describe. He dumped his first cap. We said he got 3 caps, 3 silver caps or whatever the fuck they're called. So he dumps the first one into the tank so that he can spin his car and skip himself over a water dam like a rock. So like it's literally like when you bounce a pebble off of a river or a lake or something. He does that, but with the Trans Am while spinning. Which is, like, it's so anime, and it's such a wild concept to think about.
And to, like, if you want to put some car physics into it.
It's not going to happen.
Before he puts his fucking... He times his drift as he drops in the boost pill onto it.
So the track is like Daytona or something, where it's like flipped up. Like there's a whole side that you can drive on because you're driving so fast you won't be pulled down, right?
Correct.
So he goes up onto the wall, just flips his steering wheel so that he starts spinning and then dumps the cap.
And like you said, just like a fucking rock, it starts going, flips over, like doesn't flip over, but jumps over the initial ledge, and he's going already super fucking fast, which, I mean, you would have to have, the projectiles will have to have a turn into them, so that could happen, but no, they're just going straight out, and this was spinning, and he's skipping his fucking car through a lake, which is fucking amazing.
It's great. It's so wild. It's because like other racers are having to like shoot like a lancer attached to a chain on the other side of the wall and dragging themselves across. Sonashi's ship is a pod racer that floats above the ground, so she's okay. But like you're like, how's JP gonna get over this? And he just starts bouncing over the water like a fucking pebble. But by the end of it, by the end of the scene with the giant nuclear baby and the minefield, Sonashi's ship is fucked. Like it's destroyed. And JP still with what I called emotional inquisition, what you called sexual tension, he approaches her abandoned car, is reminded of the scene he saw when they were kids, where she's trying to like get her car from being crashed inside of the tire wall. Sees her trying to flip over her ship that's destroyed, and he volunteers to take her the rest of the way on the rest of the race.
And there's a piece of dialogue where you can see that JP is on the opposite side of the car while trying to flip it over, and she's on the opposite side of the car trying to flip it over. And she's not helping willingly because she's asking something of him. Yeah. She's almost trying to get volume to his personality. She's
still being reminded that he's a bad boy, but she's trying to she thinks she can change him. She thinks there's a light somewhere in there.
They'll do.
So she's like, what really happened when you were kids? Like, are you really this bad of a guy? And he's just like, oh, well, my friend Frisbee got in some trouble with the mob. I'm just trying to help him out. And she's like, okay, I guess I can help you then.
And that's when they help flip the fucking thing over.
Right, because the Trans Am was flipped too. And they just like throw the top off of it because all the windows are blown off, and they're just like, fuck it. And they just start racing their asses off, because the end, the last like portion of this race is just straightforward. It's just like, we're just going straight to the finish line at the Robo World Capitol. We're going straight up a building, and it's so wild to see because they drew the finish line on top of this like 1,000-foot story building that's the top of the Robo World Capitol. And you hear the announcer say like, how the fuck is that little Trans Am gonna get up on top of the car? That's where, in the very last leg of this movie, the movie introduces a new like weapon / power, which like we've seen like these regular gold caps that JP's been using, and all of a sudden it's JP and Sonoshi next to Machine Head in his giant fucking souped up car, he's also a part of, because he's a living fucking machine weapon.
Who's got no damage whatsoever.
Who's got no damage. He just floated across the whole thing. He's just like, you don't understand. I'm the master of the machine. I have mastered the steam light. And he just like swallows this blue fucking steam pill, which makes his whole thing go fucking nitrous times a million. This giant fucking tank carrier thing goes Super Saiyan times a million. And then you see Sonoshi, she just pulls this necklace off of her neck, and she's like, oh, my dad gave this to me one time. He always told me that this was the magical steam light and that I should never use it because no person can ever handle the power of the steam light. And she's just like, fuck it, and dumps it into his tank, into his fucking boost tank. Mm-hmm. And so now they're on the same boost level as Machine Head, which is described to be as the same power as like a nuclear fucking bomb. It's so crazy to see.
But this little car is not budging. Like, it's not exploding. It should have fucking exploded fucking 10 miles ago.
Which says a lot about Frisbee's engineering.
Yeah. And to good thing that you brought up Frisbee, because at the same time, Frisbee, it's getting roughed up by the fucking mob because they're trying to convince him, quote unquote, to fucking take the deal.
Because they saw that he rigged the car last time. And the boss that's like dumb lit off the cocaine, like tried saying the same thing. He's just like, just throw the bomb now, Frisbee. It doesn't matter. Throw the bomb now. He's like, no, I can't do it. So they start fucking him up. But then the real friend of JP's, Old Man Mole, busts through the secret base of the mob lord with a motorcycle, and it's just like, hey, I'm here to protect Frisbee, and starts shooting at people with a nail gun. And it's so wild. So, like, the billionaire mob boss, he just literally shoots him with a giant nail gun. And I'm not talking like a little nail gun. I'm talking like a foot-long nail. Yeah. He shoots it at the guy like a harpoon, and it throws off his hand and half his face. And Old Man Mole just gets drunk with Frisbee on the couch the rest of the race. He's just like, we're just gonna watch JP win the thing.
And he snags the detonator from fucking Frisbee at one point.
Right, because he's like, I don't trust you, fucking Frisbee. You're gonna try to pay off your debts. I worked too hard on this car. Give me that bullshit.
But just like everybody else, they get drunk, and I don't know what the fuck happened. Okay. A stop there. A pause on that plot line. We go back into the race. JP and Sonochi are in the car together in one cabin, man, and he's laying with him while he's driving super.
It's going a million miles per hour because of the steam
James
light.
Bond style. If James Bond was like driving around with a babe, you know, and everything turns into a money shot.
Oh, it's so dope.
Oh, a closing scene.
It's so dope because even like they're driving so fast, the shelling to the Trans Am starts coming apart. So you see, it's just a Formula One 3-wheel racing car thing, right? Mm-hmm. And then you even see like the front wheel of Machine Head's car like fall apart, and he just like biosymbiotes it and just turns into a spaceship and just starts floating away. And they're just like, there's no way they can win. And then at the very last second, all drunk as fuck, Old Man Mole accidentally detonates the bomb that was in the back of the Trans Am, which gives him enough momentum at the last second to just blast off and win the fucking race. And the minute, which is also funny because he has a giant fucking ducktail, JP does. So the minute his ducktail hits like the virtual end line, the whole thing just like dissipates. And it's just like, JP won, holy fuck, JP won. And that's like the end of the movie. There's no after story. There's no background. The last piece of dialogue is JP looking at Sonoshi being like, Sonoshi, we did it. I love you. I love you too, JP. And it's, I guess what you're talking about, it kind of is the sexual tension thing. Like, they're both meant to be attractive people, so they just want to buck because they just had this high octane testosterone filled race that we've been describing for this whole time. But it's just so fuck. Like, the minute you really understand what's happening, it's over. The movie's done. It's so like,
and it's funny because when this happens, the moment of the race, the moment when they cross the finish line, every single remaining racer, it's post nut at this point. Everybody's like, oh, that was so good. Even Machine Head is like, oh, fine, that was so fucking good. And yeah, it turns into like this Madoka Magica spiritual world where they're like souls fucking merge. And
I love you, Sonoshi. I love you, JP.
No prize winning. No press
we don't know what's
conference
going on with
afterwards.
Frisbee. We didn't hear from that coked up announcer. We didn't hear from the crime mob. It's so perfect.
Credits start rolling, and at this point, I'm contemplating what the fuck I've been doing with my life. Because this fucking thing is fucking ridiculous.
It's the greatest movie ever, bro.
2009 Madhouse.
This shit could have come out last year, and you would not know the difference.
It could have come out 10 years before, and I mean, what was the last animation we saw that we were like, holy shit, this was made like in 2003? Animatrix, the last episode to Animatrix.
Right.
It's something that hits you like the same. Yeah. You know?
And this one, like I described at the beginning, this is literally the best 2D animated thing I've ever seen in my life. Ever. Like, we're at episode 65, 66 of this podcast. We've seen over 70 pieces of animated works for this podcast. And I cannot describe to you anything in my life I have seen that looks like better animated quality. No Ghibli movie. No Studio Mappa produced film. No, nothing has ever beaten the animation quality that came out of Redline for me. And it's so wild that Studio Madhouse just died on a hill to protect the production of this film.
Yeah, I mean, you can't almost compare it to Akira, because Akira's animation, although it was, a crazy amount of different hand-drawn cells to make this fucking movie, what you see in this movie, it could almost be CGI.
Almost every, like the scenes where you were describing at the beginning, where it looks like he's being like warped through dimensions, it's hand drawn. Like, you are telling me that somebody sat there and really had to redraw this entire frame by frame, to just elongate this car jumping through like a time space. Mm-hmm. It's so wild. It's so weird to see, like.
And don't get me wrong, like, when you have this level of animation, as good as Redline is, if you are a connoisseur of these things, of animation, you can tell where they save their money.
Yeah.
But those instances
are so few and far between.
That like they use repeated cells and frames to animate the media trying to like to interview JP. It's like the same motion. You can tell for like 2 seconds. They also went an easier way not to animate the bottom of the cars while they're flipping.
Yep.
You can see the entire car. A regular car, you can see the entire thing almost of how you see besides the plating. But those are the instances where you're like, okay, this is where they save time. This is where they save time. This is where they save time. But those instances, like you said, they're so little and so far in between.
It's such a wild fucking feeling. Like from beginning to and it's not like a series or anything. Like this should be the easiest drop off point for anybody. Like that you can just like be like, you don't like anime? Bet. Sit them down for 90 minutes. Show them this. If they don't like it, maybe they just don't like anime. That's fine. That's all right. But if they're even vaguely interested in something like this, there's no way that they come out of Redline not being blown the fuck away.
It is, as an entry level anime watcher, if you watch this and your argument could be that, oh, it was too fucking crazy. Yeah, it is too fucking crazy.
Yeah, you know what's not crazy? The end to Naruto Shippuden. Like, get the fuck over it.
Get the fuck over it.
Get the fuck over it, bro.
Or the last 1,000 episodes of fucking Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah.
Like, who cares?
Yep. Did you... well, hold on. Before we go into that subtangent, should we go into the Nerd Down?
Nerd Down.
Nerd Down.
Nerd Down.
My point that I was going to bring up is, did you see the most recent trailer for the reboot they're going to do of Dragon Ball Super?
With Bardock?
No. But before that, they're showing an anime sequence.
Oh, I'm thinking about the manga. Yeah.
No. The actual anime.
Oh, okay.
The anime for Dragon Ball Super released a trailer recently, and it looks fucking atrocious. Like, it's all 3D. It's all super choppy looking. It might as well be fucking Dragon Ball Z Budokai on the fucking GameCube.
Oh, God.
It looks terrible. Absolutely terrible. But at the beginning of the Nerd Down, I do want to remind everybody to please like or rate on whatever your podcast listening platform of choice is. Don't forget to follow or subscribe. And please use hashtag Tits for Nerds, that is TITSFORNERDS, in an original tweet or Instagram post to be entered into our October giveaway. For every like and retweet on an original post that uses hashtag Tits for Nerds, we will be donating to the El Paso Cancer Association.
Yes, please use that. Next week, we're having Roby back to talk about season 2 of Yu Yu Hakusho.
The Dark Tournament Saga.
Dark Tournament Saga, which I started watching it. It's 42 episodes long.
I'm almost done. This shit's wild. This shit's so good.
Oh, man, we have talked about a lot of different shit from the 90s. We have almost like the same comments to the 90s anime that it's like, it's almost lackluster in some points, but Yu Yu Hakusho just
bro,
sets the premise for 90s anime.
I almost cried the other day, bro. I was rewatching a scene where where Yusuke gets like his last power up for the arc, and I almost bawled my eyes out, bro. I was so upset. And like, this thing's 30 fucking years old, 20 years old, and it holds up so well. You see so much of the writing tropes from Hunter x Hunter. Speaking of Studio Madhouse made the 2011 adaptation to Hunter x Hunter. But Yu Yu Hakusho, like, the writing from that manga author, it just prevails so much. It's such a classic medium. I can't believe nobody has tried to pick it up and like reproduce it. It almost doesn't make sense to me at this point.
Oh, man, it's really good. But in the Nerd Down, we have some stuff to talk about. I recently caught up to Squid Game.
Squid Game. Do you want to talk about Squid Game? I love Squid Game.
I do want to talk about Squid Game, man. Squid Game is a South Korean production. Our creator or director, writer, he went back. Well, he didn't go bankrupt doing this, but he tried so hard.
He didn't go bankrupt. He was just broke.
He was just broke. Yeah,
he was just broke.
Yeah, he went life broke. He filed for bankruptcy on life. And he tried for a lot of studios to pick this up. Nobody wanted to pick it up. People can make the argument that this is Hunger Games, that this is...
His name is Hwang Dong-hyuk. Hwang Dong-hyuk had to sell his laptop for $600 after typing out the Squid Game screenplay because nobody wanted to buy it. And now it's like single-handedly like saved Netflix.
I just saw an article that this has been viewed in over 42 million households.
Yeah. And that's what's wild to think about, because I saw a content creator that I like on Twitter the other day making fun of a comment about a video he made about Squid Game, talking about how like they should have had American actors redo it, and that how that would have been more relatable. Which is like, fuck that. Like, it's shown to be the most relatable thing ever. And it has South Korean actors, South Korean voice actors. It's everything is so perfect. Well, the ending's not great. No, the ending is objectionable. I'm not going to say it's not great. Squid Game as a whole is about, like, the struggle against capitalism, kind of, at the end of the day. It is about people entering death games, Hunger Games-esque tournaments to earn enough money to pay off their debt because they're being crushed by the crippling weight of capitalism. Which is exhausting because, like, yes, this is the backstory for the protagonist is probably the part that I could see, like, somebody that doesn't agree with how I just described it, like picking it apart, because the protagonist is kind of seen as a gambling addict. He's a little bit of a bum. He might be an alcoholic a little bit. When he even doesn't have any money, he's kind of still spending his money on drinks. He's betting on horse races when he doesn't have any money to bet. He's taking out loans to take out bets on horse races.
Which fucks you up if you lose.
Yeah,
it just puts you deeper in the
you're
pocket.
You're more than likely to lose. You know what I mean?
Correct.
That's literally like the point of a horse race.
And before we get into the Squid Games, I want to bring up, Bong Joon-ho, which is the writer and director of the Parasite movie, Train to Busan, a taxi driver.
Oscar winner for Film of the Year.
For best foreign fucking screenwrite, and his words are if you can get over this small barrier of cultural, of being multicultural and getting over this small barrier to read subtitles, to enjoy something that it's not American theme. We've seen Ghost in a Shell being portrayed by fucking Scarlett Johansson. The Great Wall with Matt Damon. It doesn't fit. It's not gonna give the same thing because
it's not right.
The cultural impact is not there.
It's not right. Because it's so wild to like, and that's what hits home so much more as like an American audience viewer is that like, yo, I'm going through that same shit. Like, I feel broke too. I feel like I'm struggling too. And like, people in South Korea are feeling the exact same way. There was a walkout demonstration about workers' rights this week where like 500,000 people showed up to a workers' rights demonstration. And a good amount of people were dressed up in the Squid Game outfit. And one of my favorite content creators was talking about this discourse where it's like Squid Game from like really old, high-powered, high-influenced viewers in the industry has not been given good reviews. You know what I mean? It's always rated as average or slightly below average. But his commentary was that, like, no, the real people understand what the point of Squid Game was. It's about the class struggle. It's about, like, trying to, like, reclaim something that has been taken by rich elites almost.
It almost like the plots to like the Hunger Games, plots to the Squid Game, plot of revolutionary revolt. It almost feels like to me, at least, in the point of like a corporate elite, that they wouldn't want these things to come out, to give the people the fuel they need to like revolt against this fucking elite systems.
Yep.
But thank God, like, we have things in South Korea that are pushing this premise,
which is great because like even consider like things or pieces of media that aren't making the same piece of light. Like, I saw Lamb this past weekend, right?
Oh, you did? Cool.
Which came out of Sweden, which like was entirely directed and produced outside of A24 Productions. A24 distributed it after it won a bunch of awards and like private film festivals and stuff like that. Like, imagine if people like Netflix or A24 were not picking up these independent works, like how different everything would look. And that's what I like both love and hate about like internet in the 21st century, is that we have access to so much media and so many different perspectives that there are still people that choose to isolate themselves as opposed to experiencing all these different things and these different viewpoints, which hurts so much more. You know what I mean? It's just like, there's all this cool media and all this cool, like, not even media, but like viewpoints and storytelling and like even news stories from different points of the world. You have access to every piece of information ever. And you choose to self-isolate into an anti-vax group that chooses to like pump ivermectin into your veins. What are you talking about? That is the stupidest shit I've ever heard in my life.
It is fucking crazy. And for those of you that haven't watched Squid Games, please do so, because we're about to break it down a little bit here. Yeah. And we follow our protagonist, our drunken, manipulating character, which is Sung Jian. Yeah, Sung Jian, and he steals money from his mom. He has a 10-year-old daughter that he lost custody of through divorce because of the same, gambling problem.
Well, not only that, but he's in debt and he has a drinking problem because he was unemployed because he lost his job after the privatization of a South Korean car manufacturer that was sold to Japan. So again, it's kind of like this whole, like, money corrupts all kind of thing. It's like, yes, he's down on his luck, but at a certain point, the system did him wrong. And he was never able to fully recover from losing his comfy job at this car manufacturer. And what I was describing earlier was like, he loses a bunch of money in a horse race. He signs away the rights to his body because some South Korean thugs like pin him inside of a bathroom and are like, hey, sign this document
to make it legal.
To make it legal that we sell like your kidney unless you pay us back. Which like when you're watching it, even in the dub, it's hard to follow sometimes because the Japanese won is worth 1,000, like $1,300 to $1,000 per dollar. So they'll say something like, you owe us 80 billion won. And you're like, what the fuck? It's like $1 million, which is a lot. Don't get me wrong.
But hearing the B word is like, holy fuck.
Yeah. You're just like, what the fuck? And he meets somebody at a subway platform that is willing to play like a South Korean childhood game, which is like, what's it called?
Dasos.
Dasos. It's like you're bouncing a piece of paper, or like tazos, like the Mexican tazos were like a chip. They look like poker chips.
Pots.
Right.
Tops, some shit like that.
They look like little, like rounded, flat coins that were made out of plastic that you could like bounce off each other to make them pop
over.
And then if you made them flip over, you won. But here they're using like pieces of like folded paper. So he approaches our main character here, Gi-hun, and he's like, hey, if we can play this game and you can bounce my red paper over your blue paper, every time you win, I'll give you 100,000 won or whatever. Every time you win, I get to slap the shit out of you. And he's so down on his luck, and he's so broke, and he's so desperate. He takes like 50 fucking slaps to the face before he starts winning any money. And not only that, by the time this guy with the briefcase full of money and the games walks away, he's like, here, take this card. Call this number if you're down to play. No context, nothing else. Just walks the fuck away.
And I guess not the motivation, but like this suited guy that we see here, he wants to know if he really is about selling his body or selling his life for a big payout, And the rules of the game is that, okay, for every time that you win, I'll give you this money, and then every time I win, you will give me the money.
Right.
Our protagonist, Song Yeon, he doesn't tell him that he's broke. He accepts the challenge. He loses the first time, and he's like, "Oh, bro, I didn't tell you, I'm broke." It's like, and he's like, okay, well, you're gonna pay with your body. And
but they clearly already knew everything about him.
Correct.
Because by the time the suited guy walks away, he's like, yeah, you signed your body rights away this morning at 11 a.m. You're $50 billion in debt. 50 billion won in debt, excuse me.
To the mob, and then plus to the banks.
Plus to the banks. You were fired from your car manufacturer job. You tried to open your own like convenience store. You failed. Your wife divorced you. You have a 10-year-old daughter. She's moving to America. And he gets some scratch from this game because he wins like a couple games. So he has like 100,000 won, which is like $1,000. He runs home to his mom, who he lives with, who we learn is like dying from like late stage diabetes, who hasn't been treated because the son canceled their health insurance because he was so broke and so addicted to gambling that like so he goes home, gets his mom a fancy dinner, feeds her. She gets sick the next day. They take her to the emergency room. She's like, no, get me out of here. Get me out of here. The doctor tells her she needs to have both of her legs amputated because of her fucking diabetes. And you see the son walking home with the mom being like, yo, let's go back. We'll pay for it, whatever. And she's like, no, you dumbass. To pay for your gambling, you canceled our health insurance years ago. Like, I can't fucking be over there. I have to be at home and I'm just gonna die in bed.
And she walks home with her two fucking decrepit fucking
Oh my
feet.
God, it's so ugly. Like, especially episode 1. I almost stopped watching after episode 1. It's so ugly and hard to sit through that, like, there's no game portion of it yet. There's no, like, otherworldly Hunger Games aspect of it. It's just this, I hate storylines that make the main character insufferable to the point that he's so pathetic and like
selfish.
Hard to watch. It's selfish and hard to watch that I literally can't sit through it, which is why I always had a problem with every film Steve Carell made, which is all those. It's always just Steve Carell's a fucking loser for an hour and then he learns how to love his family the last 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And this feels that same way in episode 1. I was like, I almost told Karen, like me and Karen were watching it together. I was like, I don't want to watch it anymore. I couldn't do it. It's too pathetic for me to watch.
And then the mom, Sung Yeon's mom, finds out about her, cause the mom, she kind of cares about his son, which is our protagonist, Sung Yeon, but she really loves her granddaughter.
Right.
You know, and she tells him, is like, hey, stupid, I just find out that your wife, it's moving with her ex-wife, it's moving with her new husband to America with your daughter, and you have to do something about it. Yeah. She's gonna forget how to speak Korean because to a grandma, especially coming from like a Mexican household, like my mom, she knows that I speak Spanish. She knows that I never dropped my first language, you know?
Right.
Because me coming to the United States, I've known people when I was going in high school that came to the United States way before me that didn't you make fun of me about my English and my pronunciation sometimes, and it's okay, but I am comfortable at the level of English speaking compared to the people that I knew in high school that came way before me and didn't get a lick of it.
I honestly, I knew people from Malwood High School here in El Paso that I graduated with that could not hold a conversation in English, like whatsoever. And they spent, like what you're talking about, like 6-7 years, like an American school system, and like just never felt comfortable not speaking Spanish all the time. Which I get it. And I get where the mom was coming from right here. So because the mom's dying from diabetes because he's billions of won in debt, Song Hwan like decides he's going to call the number on the card he got and he's going to try to get some fucking money. So he meets up at the designated spot where the person on the phone told him to go. They put him inside of the van and they gas them. They gas like this car full of people, take them to a secluded island, and now they have to play out the fucking Hunger Games. And it's so wild from there on out. Like the minute you finish episode 1, which like I'm just describing episode 1, which hard enough for me to finish. From there on out, it's a breeze. You're just gonna just skate through the rest of this season.
And what makes it a little bit more diabolical is that the games that they're playing are childhood games in South Korea.
Right. You know? So it's like red light, green light, which we have in the United States. You know what I mean? You almost expect them to play tag at a certain point. And it's these, but the gimmick is that these games, if you lose, you die.
And they played the initial game in episode 1. It's the red light, green light, which is...
we have red light, green light in the United States.
I never played it.
Well, I honestly, I don't think technically, I never played it in the US. The only time I've ever played red light, green light was when I was going to public school on a military base in Germany because I'm an army brat. And on base in gym class, they had us play red light, green light. It's just like, hey, if I turn around and say green light, you have to run. If I turn the other way and say red light, you have to stop.
Okay.
Whoever I see in motion loses. It's simple. You know what I mean? But here, it's like, hey, when I say red light, if you're still in motion, I have like 20 snipers like posted around
turrets.
yeah, 20 of these turrets and these snipers posted around this arena that are just going to shoot you dead. Which is the wildest thing, because it's not until like right until this game happens that you're like, wow, they're really playing for their lives. It's 456 people. For each person, they get like a million or 10 million yuan added to a pool of money, and only the person at the end wins. And it's such again, that's like the class dynamic here, is that it's a rich man's game to watch these poor people fend over scraps.
Yeah.
Like literal scraps.
And right after the game, right after like maybe 100 of those people or like 200 of those people get eliminated, the risk, it's put into perspective towards the end, because people now are going crazy. They're like, what the fuck did you make us do? People fucking died. We want to get the fuck out of here.
They bail out of the game at a certain point. After the very first game, they're like, hey, by a unanimous vote, we can get the fuck out of here. And they do that. They very much do that. They do a vote, and there's this crazy old man character that's introduced in the beginning, who's like my favorite character in the whole fucking show.
Yeah.
He has like terminal brain cancer. He's shown as being almost like cynical, like he's batshit crazy. You know what I mean? But also a sense that he really does know what's going on, because he starts directing the cast to vote a certain way, because the point I'm describing, where by unanimous vote, or not unanimous, by majority vote, they can vote to get off the island and quit the game, right? Because half the people have already died. There are only like 240 something people left. The last vote here is contestant number 1, which is this crazy old dude, and he votes to let them all leave. We get an episode, like all of episode 2 is just about this cast of the Squid Games or whatever. Our main cast back in the real world in South Korea, just living their shitty fucking lives back in debt. And one of these characters is the main character's best friend from Sanwoo, who's our main character's best friend from like school. And he went to a good school. He was supposed to be a successful businessman, but it turns out he's like big fucking in debt, because just like everybody else, he fucked up. He tried betting against the stock market. He lost a fuck ton of money, but he leveraged his family, the sole piece of his family is his mom and her business hosting like a noodle stand, like against a bank, against like almost like a mobbish bank. They don't seem like completely legitimate.
And like in this episode is where, like you said, there's the show is it's sewing your heartstrings into the show. Right. So they show Sang-woo's bad decisions, bad investing decisions, fucking up his family because of collateral. Not only that, he's in trouble with the law because of the same reasons, because at some point bad investments equals like financial fraud. Yeah. You know?
Yeah. Well, because he was betting people's money. Okay. He was betting other people's money. So yeah, like the feds were against him too. And not only that, they start introducing characters from like the South Korean national like police force who realize that something fishy is going on. We meet a character named Jun Ho who infiltrates like this inner force, because the whole point of episode 2 is just that the real world is so fucking shitty that the same 250 people volunteer for the same Squid Games all over again, which is ridiculous.
And I want to point out too that Ali character, yes, or Pakistani character, love Ali. Dude, love Ali, dog. Like,
He's the only non-Korean character.
Yes, which I love. Unfortunately, I watched the dub. You know.
Yeah.
You can't put the same amount of feelings just like Caesar and fucking JoJo's.
Yeah.
So you lose a little bit of feel here, but the character that we talked about that did bad financial decisions and shit, Sang-woo, he gets dropped off with Ali, just like Sang-jian gets dropped off with the girl that pickpocketed his winnings from the initial horse race.
Right.
And she was also in the game.
Right.
It's an unpaid worker. Like, his boss is back on checks on his entire staff because he's being greedy. Because
all his staff is illegal. So he's like, what the fuck are you going to do? Like,
and not only that, but like when Ali goes, when Sang-woo, it's in this second episode, is portrayed to be a compassionate person because not only did he lend him his phone, he bought him noodles, and he bought him his bus fare to a place far from Seoul, which is the capital of South Korea.
Right.
We follow Ali going into his boss's office, trying to claim his check money, his back pay.
He's like, yo, you haven't paid me in like 3 months. I need my fucking money.
And he's playing a gambling game on the computer. If you notice, he's betting money on the computer while there's a stack of money on his desk.
Yeah.
Ali has lost 2 fingers working for this man.
Yeah.
Already. And Ali becomes a criminal at this point because he pushed his boss into a rotating machinery that made him lose his hand, and he got trapped in there.
Like the whole arm, not the fucking hand. Like, he lost his whole fucking arm. Because it was kind of one of those, like, hey, come the fuck out there and I'm gonna pressure you in front of the staff kind of thing. But the boss was kind of like, oh, I can work this fucking machinery, I can do this. But Ali kind of like pushed him a little bit and kind of like pressed him, and then the boss wasn't even paying attention, and his hand was in front of the machinery because he doesn't even know how to work his own fucking equipment, and his whole arm got like rolled in the machinery, and it's
savage,
ugly. It's so ugly to see. And then because it was Ali's fault and he's an illegal immigrant in South Korea, he just runs the fuck away, and he immediately recalls the number, and he's like, take me back to the Squid Games. Like, I have nothing else here. And just like that, like, episode 3 starts, we're back at the Squid Games, and it's almost the entirety of everyone that voted to leave is back here.
A little bit before that, a little bit before we get back into the game, the only one that it's content with the decision of leaving the games is the protagonist, Song-yeon, because he's like, holy shit, I'm so glad I got out of there. But then, almost by coincidence, quote unquote coincidence, he's sitting with the last bit of a scratch that he has left. He's drinking some soju right outside of this 7-Eleven-ish kind of store, and he sees the old man.
Mm-hmm.
And the old man, he's like, hey, you're that guy. You know, you were there. Blah, blah, blah. And they have a sit down. They share noodles. They share soju. The old man continues in this dialogue of like, I'm staying at my friend's house just for a little bit. I'm just waiting to die, kind of, you know?
Yeah.
And it's so pathetic of me because I don't want to do that. You know, I want to leave and blah, blah. So he's almost the decision-making for Song-yeon here.
Yeah.
And Song-yeon seeing his mom still tending to her store with diabetic rotting feet, he makes the ultimate decision because right before that too, he goes to his ex-wife's apartment and asks for money, which she doesn't give him. But then the new husband of the wife walks in and he's like, what the fuck is he doing here? Blah, blah, blah. He walks away. The new husband of the wife, the one that is taking his daughter to America, gives him the money that he's asked for, which is 10 million won.
Which is $1,000.
Yeah. Which is, yeah, it's nothing, but it is something, you know?
Yeah.
And Song-yeon accepts the money. And he's like, dude, I'll pay you back as soon as I can. He's like, don't bother my family anymore.
Yeah.
And he's like, fuck you. He's like, you think money solves everything? But fuck you, blah, blah. He punches him. His daughter sees him. You're already kicking a dead man.
Because even before that, like in episode 1, he got like a little bit of scratch and he forgot about his daughter's birthday. So he spends a bunch of money on like a crane machine at an arcade to get her some bullshit like fake gun toy. Which every part of this is just so pathetic, but it's supposed to feel pathetic. Mm-hmm. Like it's supposed to feel sad and pathetic. Mm-hmm. And the rest of it, like they go back. The A plot is them participating in the games. The B plot is the cop that sneaks in with them, Jun Ho, and he's trying to like expose the secret like billionaire organization that's convincing people to sell their bodies as a game. Mm-hmm. And so we get like these crazy games. Like we get Tug of War. We get a game about a cookie. Mm-hmm. I can't remember the name of it. It's something in Korean, but it's essentially a game with a piece of pastel cookie where it has a shape imprinted into it, but it's a really fragile type of cookie.
It's a sugar-based cookie,
right?
You know, so it's just crystallized sugar into like in this cookie with a certain print on it.
It's the one that's memed a fuck ton.
Mm-hmm. And that reminds me a lot. I can't remember what kind of games it reminds me of, or candy that you bought from What Is, that it came with like a game, and the attraction of this candy that you're getting is that the challenge is for you to crack around the print so you can have a nice looking print of a star, of a triangle, of a circle, of an umbrella.
It's called Pogi.
And I was explaining to my girlfriend Vinay, because we were watching this together. She's like, what is that? It's like, well, when you come from a place that people are trying to make, you know, a living of, your marketing is like, oh, the challenge for your cookie is to try to snap it into that piece. You know what I'm saying? So so
it's like an umbrella, a star, and like all this extra stuff. But the thing about the umbrella, if you think of how a 2D umbrella is, there's a very thin base where the stem is. And that's the trick. It's just like, if you pick the umbrella, you are fucked, because if your cookie breaks, you automatically have to die. And it's just impossible to break the cookie there, because the base where the umbrella handle is so thin, you could never break that cookie correctly.
And when our cast goes back into the game, we see the Sung Yeon, Sung Woo, the old man, Ali. They kind of try to like put their brains together. It's like, we're trying to figure out what the next game might be. It looks like it's gonna be childhood games. It could be from, you know, hopscotch. It could be tag. It could be elastics. Whatever the fuck that is.
Who the fucking knows?
And Sung Woo, when they brought into the second game, which is our cookie game, he sees the shapes, and he has a flashback to his childhood. That he's like, oh shit, I remember these shapes of our cookie game. Mm-hmm. And not only does he hold on to that information, he tells the team, is like, oh, well, since we don't know what the fuck it is, we should spread out and pick different shapes. Which at this point you're like, oh, this fucking guy.
Which fucks him. Which fucks him, because the genius behind the whole writing in this scene is that, like, if you get a star, it's super easy to do, right? Because you can just like a triangle, because you can just outline the stems. It's a super simple shape. But our main character here, he starts licking the back of the cookie, because he recognizes that if you have imprinted with like a cookie imprint on a cookie, the backside's thinner where the shape should be. Mm-hmm. So if you start licking on this crystallized sugar,
that layer's gonna dissolve.
That layer's gonna dissolve first, and that's how he gets away with it. Mm-hmm. And, like, from a writing perspective, when I was watching it, like, you see all these other characters. Somebody snuck in a lighter, so they start heating up the needle, and they can, like, quickly brush over. And I'm just like, okay, cool. That's smart. Whatever. That's, air quotes, smart. But once you start seeing our main character start licking the back of the cookie, and you're just like, he's lost his fucking mind. What is going on? And then the story starts explaining that it's just like, holy shit, it's thinner at the back where the shape is. You're just like, that's so simple, but so smart from a writing perspective. That's so genius. Genius is a little big. Excuse me. But I host a podcast where people are expected to hear my voice. Genius is how it feels in that moment.
Because it's such like a power move at the end, because you have 5 minutes to crack. Well, his shape, our protagonist's shape, is the umbrella.
That's one of the cheesy writing gimmicks. There is that all of his games last until the last fucking minute.
But as he starts losing his mind and licking the back of this mazapan,
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, everybody sees him, and everybody gets the fucking brain blast, and they're like, oh, fuck, yeah, that's right. Even the old man, he's having a struggle, because not only is he old, he has a fucking deteriorating brain, and he's trying to break through this star.
Yeah.
The first one to obviously gets a pass is Sung Woo, who got a triangle, which is super easy. Ali has a circle, and we see this moment where Ali almost breaks the edge of the circle, and you're like, oh,
because like if you're listening and you haven't seen Squid Game, which I think that audience is pretty small, but if you don't know what's going on, there's also like security guards whose faces only have circles, triangles, and squares on them, watching them all play the game. So if they see you fuck up, they're just gonna shoot you in the face on the spot.
No matter what, you can't fix your cookie. You don't have time to get somebody else's cookie.
But what we start learning from like the cop that's infiltrated the ranks is that they are also previous attendees of this game. So that reinforces the overarching theme that it's about like this struggling class trying to...
This pyramid scheme.
Yeah, that are part of this pyramid scheme that is just run by like a handful of rich people. Like, we're all just being cucked by like 6 billionaires. Which is exactly how like the American... Yeah, how like the American political system's working right now.
And anyways, we... Song Woo... keeping this information for him because he wants to weed out his own quote-unquote teammates, his friends.
Right.
You know, the old man passes last second. Song Yu, what was his name? Song Yun. He passes by licking his fucking umbrella. I believe the name of this third episode is the Umbrella Man. And now Song Yun, he realizes that Song Woo was being sketchy at this point.
Right.
And not only that, we have this subplot of this doctor that is getting fed information and knowing the fucking games beforehand.
Right. So there's a doctor character who's part of the Squid Game, who's in debt just like everybody else. But after each game, they're grabbing him, pulling him to the side, so that he can harvest organs so that this organization can sell organs and make their money. But then as like reward for him working through the night, they will feed him information on what the game is the next day. Which is so fucked up because it's like, that's just like capitalism, like cucking you every which way. It's like, even after you're dead, it's like, how can we make money off of this shell of a person? And it's so exhausting to see because after the second game, the shapes with the cookies, the third game is literally a game of tug of war, which you would need firsthand knowledge to be like, hey, I'm going to pick the biggest, baddest motherfuckers and like get them all on my team, or there's no way I'm going to win. And our main cast of characters, which is like Ali, Sang-woo, and Song Yi-hyun, like, are just like, oh, well, we'll pick a balanced team or something like that. Just no girls, because there's no way girls are useful or anything like that. Which is where they end up picking up like the
North Korean girl.
Yes. Well, I was going to say like the ex model that everyone is like gushing over all over like Twitter and Instagram and everything. She's played by Ho Hee-hyun Jung, but her character name is Kong Sae-byok, which like that Byok ending is like what I understand to be kind of like a North Korean last name sounding thing. But she's she's gorgeous. You know what I mean? She's like fucking beautiful. And like that's the thing about Squid Game is that like they're homeless people inside of like the Hunger Games. So she's not in makeup any of the show. She's barely done up like at all. She has messy hair the entire time. She's the girl that hustled money out of like our South Korean cholo like in episode 1. And but like that's what's wild about like American audiences or like people that I've grown up with or that I know in high school that like I still follow on Twitter or Facebook and stuff like that, and I see them gushing over like a character like this. Is like I love that this is so South Korean centric because it's like a character like this would have never been popular like 10 years ago. Like this woman is objectively gorgeous. Like don't get me wrong, I love my girlfriend, like she's beautiful. I love Karen, don't get me wrong, but like this is what I was describing to Karen like last week. Like objectively, this woman is gorgeous, and it's wild that they show her like non-makeup for the entirety of a show.
And I mean, if you put it in anime terms, she's her sundere.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? She's the hard-shelled girl that doesn't fuck with anybody.
Yeah.
And I read this article that she went from like
she was literally like an Instagram model, like before this came up.
She went from 8K followers to like 30 mil fucking followers like overnight.
Yeah,
which is fucking crazy. I wish our podcast that between hers had the beauty of this actress.
But the point of her character is that like she's coming from a really ugly past because it reminds me of like that American like Mexican immigrant, or no, not Mexican immigrant, but Central South American immigrant kind of mentality where like there are these people that are just from this really ugly place that need to get away from a political system that is trying to hurt them physically and kill their families and exploit them. And they're trying to go to a land of opportunity that they think that they can be protected. But there's a population of people that are so against them just because they're from a different place, right? And that's exactly how she's a North Korean defector that has escaped to South Korea, and her whole point of trying to win this money is to try to get her family into South Korea.
What I believe is that the story that she crossed over with her dad and the brother, but the dad died doing so.
So
the mom's still over there.
The mom's still over there. The brother's over here, but he's not papered, which, like, why does that fucking matter? So she not only has to, like, pay for her brother's attorney, but she has to figure out a way to hire a coyote and get her fucking mom to South Korea, which is, like, the same exact fucking dynamic that I hear in El Paso every fucking day of my life. You know what I mean? Like, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. Like, I don't understand how there's, like, 30-40% of Americans that are like, yeah, these poor South American, Central American people that have nothing in life, literally nothing in life. Like, they all must be terrorists, and they're out here to fucking get me in the suburbs of Idaho. Get the fuck over yourself, bro. These people are just trying to live till the next day, and you assume that everyone's just out to get you. Who the fuck are you that you're so fucking American-centric that you cannot see that there's a whole, not group of people, but there's like
humans.
There's like half the world that wants the bare minimum that you experience every day of your life.
Nobody wants nothing to do with your mayonnaise eating fucking.
It hurts my brain. And that's why, like, again, I was talking about like the comments on YouTube videos earlier where it's like, hey, why is this not more American focused? Because fuck you. Like, who gives a fuck about America? Like, the whole world is experiencing this. There are people in China that are traveling from Tibet because they're being lynched by the Chinese government, and they want to escape to Hong Kong because it's seen as like a beacon of light that's protected by the Western world. But Hong Kong is now being encompassed by mainland China. So now those same group of people are being lynched out in the streets because they cannot express themselves politically. It's the same thing all over the world. That's the point of Squid Game being an international phenomenon. That's the point. That's literally like,
it's ugly and beautiful at the same fucking time,
God.
bro.
It's beautiful that it's all encompassed. It's ugly that it's all encompassed in and of itself. And the thing about I'm completely lost. The game I was trying to describe at the beginning of this whole tangent was tug of war.
Yes.
They have people on platforms 100 feet over the ground. If this platform's 100 feet off the ground, I'm going to put this rope between these two people. In between is a guillotine to cut the rope in between. Because the thing is, it's fucking tug of war. The strongest people on one side are probably going to win, right? So it's like, if I just pull hard enough, then when the other team falls, as opposed to bringing me down with them because we're tied by a rope, the guillotine's going to come down, it's going to cut the other side of the rope, and they're all going to fall to the ground. Mm-hmm. And then the doctor can harvest their organs at the end of the night. Mm-hmm. Which is gruesome, because you're telling people that their lives do not matter and do not hold value. But them in death does, because then you can harvest their organs.
Correct.
There's so many fucking layers of Squid Game.
And honestly, we haven't even talked about our antagonist cast in this group.
Right.
In the second episode, we meet this like low level henchman to like the South Korean mafia who tried to.
I called him a South Korean cholo the whole time.
Yeah, South Korean cholo that he tried to attack his boss in some way, but it backfired on him. Now he owes a shitload of money to them, and this guy being quote unquote the strongest one in the whole game because he's a fucking young thug, you know. And now and honestly, the other character, the female character in this fucking show, the female antagonist, the whore, the old lady, the old hag. Oh, dude, I don't know, but I love our main cast.
Right.
I love our main cast. I love Ali. I love the old man. I love them. You know, he was there to love. Kang Sebyok too. She has a good backstory that relates to what I lived through being, you know, a Mexican American family. I hate our antagonist cast more than I love our main cast.
Right, which is kind of the point. Like, this is kind of like an antagonist motivated story.
But it fucking boils you. Yeah,
which is the point, because it's like, I hope these people get their comeuppance. Like, by the end of it, you're like, fuck, like, these people suck. Because, like, the South Korean cholo character, like, he grabs the doctor who knows what the next game's gonna be. And he's like, hey, big fucking South Korean cholo, like, let's grab the biggest motherfuckers possible because the next game's literally gonna be a game of tug of war. Mm-hmm. So they do that, and they easily win their first game of tug of war. And it's rigged, you know what I mean? And what's fucked up about the character selection, the team selection for our main cast of characters, which is Ali, like Sang-woo, and Gi-hyun, is they accidentally get trapped with the old man. Like, he's senile, he's weak, he's got fucking brain cancer, and
they have this fucking religious cuck in the game, which fucking infuriated me the whole time.
No, absolutely. but like the there's so many smart outs to the games. Which, when I've described JoJo's Bizarre Adventure previously for this podcast, that's always been the biggest gripe about JoJo's, but it's always there, so you can't even gripe about it anymore, is that, like, the writer always writes himself into a corner. And he just makes up a reason at the end that the protagonists get out of it. The smart writing is something like Hunter x Hunter or Yu Yu Hakusho, where it seems like it was pre-written out how the protagonist was going to get out of this situation. It's just like, no, it wasn't some made-up power I made at the end. It's this minute detail that you miss at the beginning of the fight that he pre-planned that how he was going to beat this character. And that's how all of Squid Games is. It's like, no, yes, he's a crazy old dude, but he grew up playing tug of war
longer than anybody,
and he knows how to beat the game. So, like, at the very beginning, he's telling the team, he's like, hey, they're totally bigger and stronger than us, but the trick is just to lean back and to put all your weight into it to the point that they're exhausted. And that's when you start pulling. You actively start pulling, which you think is going to work at first in this game. So, like, our main team with the protagonist, you see them lean back and they're just like, hold it.
Standing their ground.
They hold it. And they're going to lose still because they're so much weaker. They have like 2 girls and this old ass fucking dude out of a team of 9. Mm-hmm. And you're like, holy fuck, they're really going to lose.
And some dude that is relying on the power of God.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not until that it's like the genius of Sang-woo, who's the guy that went to the smart school. Like, even Gi-hyun tells everybody that he's the smartest guy he's ever met in his life. That Sang-woo is like, hey, just relax the rope, pretends that we're gonna fall, to the point that the other team actually falls, and then we pull.
He said, take 3 steps forward.
Which is so risky. You're literally 100 feet off the ground. And it works, though. It works. Because, like, while you're watching it, you're like, wow, that is so smart.
And they do. They go 3 steps forward. Gi-on almost falls. You know, he's almost in the verge of, like, not having any platform under his feet. That by that time, everybody else on the other team falls over because of the slack on the rope. And now they just start pushing back again. Boom, boom, boom. Start pushing back. And that's where we get our win for Marquez.
Yeah. And it's not only that. Because, like, it's not only about the games. But that night, it's so clear that, like, the people hosting this game just need people to die. Because for each person that dies, the pool of money raises by 10 million yuan. So, at the end of the night, they give them glass bottles and, like, pipes, and, like, they let them tear apart their beds, and they want to thin the herd. So, they just let them all just fucking murder each other in the middle of the night. Because they've made, like, little communities and groups amongst each other. It's just like, if we make a group amongst this shed of beds, then maybe we can protect each other. But they know that, like, the South Korean Cholo and, like, his fucking bum-ass doctor friend are on the other side of the room. And they're going to try to murder them in the middle of the night. Mm-hmm. And it's not until the middle of the night that the old man jumps on top of a bed, scared shitless. We assume he's scared shitless at this point. Mm-hmm. And he's just yelling, and he's just like, hey, everybody stop this. Like, I'm terrified. Like, I can't do this anymore. And that's when the guards with the circle, triangle, and square faces come back in and stop everybody from killing each other.
The director of the game, which has, like, this geometrical mask on him. And at this point, I'm thinking that the director of the game is the son of the old man.
Right.
Putting his dad in this situation for maybe...
You thought that already?
I had thought that already, because I was like, maybe his dad didn't play with him as a kid, and now he's making his old man dad trying to play the games that he never played with him. It almost gave me that vibe, because at the point where the old man was screaming, hey, I'm fucking scared. And old man, dude, like, if you're gonna have sympathy for anybody that is old and scared and shit like that, that should hit you right away, you know? And that's what it seemed like. And it seemed to me that there was a connection between the director of the Squid Game and the old man.
I didn't get it there. I'm not questioning on how you claim you saw it, but, like, if you were to watch back on it, like, obviously that's how you would take it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Because we said at the beginning that this would be super spoilers, but the old man is literally the owner of the game. Mm-hmm. Because within the next couple episodes, they don't show his face, but they show that the man with the geometric face, that the game runner, the blank faced man is answering to somebody else, and it turns out to be the old man. Mm-hmm. Because he's an eccentric billionaire who's part of this cast of billionaires that are imported into this game to bet on who's going to win certain games. But him being so late in his life, because he really, really does have brain cancer, it just chooses to be part of the game. But that's also why he keeps living, even though he pretends to be some super senile old man, mm-hmm. because he knows what game they're playing. He has better insight than the doctor who's getting fed results from these people that are harvesting organs. Mm. And what's wild is that at a certain point, the doctor that was harvesting organs starts killing other people in the staff. Because he hasn't slept. They're making him work through the night to harvest organs of the dead contestants. So he, at a certain point, is just fed up. And he's like, dude, even though you're giving me the answers to the next day, I literally cannot perform because I haven't slept in 3 days. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to die no matter what. So he just starts murking people. And him and, like, his co-conspirators that are part of the staff get hung as examples for the rest of the people. And the contestants get told like, hey, I'm sorry these people cheated, but they're being hung here as examples.
Because you guys are supposed to be equals.
Right.
Equal opportunity kind of shit.
Which is, again, like the kind of lie that capitalism would tell you.
Yeah.
It's the whole metaphor. Like this whole fucking show.
And the old man, I mean, we get told that he does have some brain illness, some brain tumor, cancer and stuff. And at this point in the story, while they were in the barracks, in the rooms, in the you know, he's having fever. He's you know, he's having an episode to his illness. You know, he pissed his pants. Guion gives him his jacket to cover out his pissed pants, you know, and shit. And which brings us to our next game, the marble game.
Right. Which is so fucked up.
So here
that's like the irony here in the numbers too. Is like the old man is player number 1, Gi-hyun is player number 456. He's the last player. The old man's player number 1. So after the pissing scene, because like he's incognate, you know what I mean? Like his brain literally doesn't function anymore. Player 456, Gi-hyun, gives him the jacket. At the beginning of the next game, before the Marvel game starts, the old man gives Gi-hyun the jacket, and he's just like, here, this is the number 1 jacket. Maybe it'll be treated differently. Because, like, if you're watching in hindsight, if he's the owner of the game, he knows that the rest of the game, like, supervisors will recognize that he's being protected by player number 1, who's their boss.
Correct.
So the Marvel game's the saddest fucking one.
So our contestants are made to make a team. They
of two.
Women don't want to be paired with men because they're, you know,
because dudes are weird.
Change gender or whatever. The old man almost gets singled out, and our Guion, he gets approached by this other younger male contestant member. And he's like, "Hey, we should be a team before we get left out." At this point, we haven't emphasized our fucking whore, our fucking female antagonist in this game. She's so batshit crazy. She's
Han Minyo.
She's trying to manipulate everybody's like, "Hey, yo, bro, I'll suck you off if you put me in your fucking team."
Like the only sex scene in this whole thing is her fucking the South Korean cholo.
Yeah, and it
because
was
he's the
meant to
biggest, strongest character, so she automatically tries to fuck the biggest, strongest dude to try to gain protection. But he's such an asshole, like he just blows her off right away.
Yeah, so Guion now because of his conscience, because in his core he's a good dude. He declines the offer from this other male contestant and goes to the old man. He's like, "Hey man, fuck it, let's go do this."
Even though he knows every game's a death game at this point, he knows every game like ends in death, and he's just like, "Fuck it, like we're just gonna do it," which ends up being to his benefit because you're against your partner in this next game, which is so fucked up. This is when you start hating certain characters.
So Song Woo, I already hated him because
the smart character,
the business major, the financial troubled character.
Yes,
he pairs up with Ali. Now we know that Ali and him
the illegal Pakistani immigrant
are together in this game against each other, and I'm like, holy fuck! I'm cheering. I want Ali to get out of this, you know, and now we have Yehan with the old man, and old man, it seems to be having this like dementia episode where he's like, "Oh, I grew up in a neighborhood like this," and then Gi-on says, "Oh, I did too." At this moment, as a first time watcher, I'm like, "Is this the dad of Gi-on? Is this because it is mentioned in episode 1 that the dad had gambling problems too?"
Yeah.
So to me, I was like, "Is this his dad? Like, did they grew up in the same neighborhood?" And then the old man just goes off in this rant of like trying to look for his childhood home. Not his childhood home.
The home he raises his children in.
Yeah. And Gi-on, he's like, "Dude, come on, we have to play. We have a certain amount of time left. We have to."
It is a marble game, but the players get to make up their own game. So a lot of players are just like doing Apparently, there's a South Korean betting game where it's just like you guess if it's an even or not odd number of marbles in the other player's hand. And then in your hand, as the bettor, you have your bet wager in your hand. Yeah, you have your wager in your hand. So it's like, if I bet Aldo Mendez has an odd number of marbles in his hand, I have 4 marbles in my right hand. If I guess it correctly, Aldo Mendez has to give me 4 marbles.
Correct.
So that's what most of the teams were doing, but some of them started doing like fucking Beyblades. It's like, I'm going to dig a hole in the ground and we're going to play, not hacky sack,
like toss up.
We're going to play cornhole.
Correct.
Right? So it's like, whoever gets the most number of marbles in the hole wins the game.
Mm-hmm. Well, the game works differently because, so if, on the cornhole game, if you toss a marble and don't make it, and I toss a marble and don't make it, that's 2 marbles on the field. And then if you make the winning toss...
The marbles on the field are the bet.
Correct, exactly. So we see South Korean Cholo playing this game with his fucking lunatic fucking...
Which, like, we keep calling him South Korean Cholo because that's how I saw him the whole time. His character name is Jang Deok-soo. Jang Deok-soo.
Yaksu.
The actor's name is Hyo Sung Lao. Mm-hmm. He's actually like a super sweet dude. He's been memed all over fucking Twitter. He posted an Instagram post the other day of like him with like it was like a plushie or something being like, "Hey guys, thanks for making me a millionaire," which like he has poor English. He meant thanks for getting me to 1 million followers. Uh-huh. Like if you go through his Instagram, it's all pictures of his cats.
I was gonna say
he's played as this evil South Korean cholo, but the actor seems like somebody that could be like your best fucking friend.
Yeah. And now, I mean, we see Sung Woo and Ali's fucking conflict here because Sung Woo in a way is trying to be helpful because Ali, he's a Pakistani foreigner, illegal immigrant to South Korea.
Which like apparently this actor Anupam, he's actually pretty famous in South Korean media. Like apparently he's been in like 4 or 5 movies and he's been nominated for awards like 2 or 3 times. Mm-hmm. Like, he's kind of a big deal, which is like ironic because like from like an American audience, we're so American focused. It's like
Brad Pitt.
Yeah. Why the fuck would some like Pakistani immigrant like portraying in South Korean media be so important? Which is like he's kind of a big deal in South Korea. He's a really big deal.
And the Sang Woo and Ali are playing the wager even odd game.
Right.
And Sang Woo is at his last marble.
Sang Woo's about to lose.
And he's about to lose.
The smartest guy in this game is about to lose.
And Ali is crying at this point for him.
I don't want to kill you,
He's
bro.
like, I don't want to kill you. I'm so sad. I'm sorry I'm doing this. And Sang Woo's like, fuck you. You knew this all along. You told me you didn't know how to play. Fuck
Sore
you.
Sore fucking loser, bro.
Sore fucking loser. And at this point, Sang Woo has the best, has this big
the
brain,
smartest and worst idea.
Big idea. He's like, okay, let's team up. They're already a team, but let's team up against another team so we can play a game so we can get their 20 marbles for each of us. And then Ali puts his marbles in his pocket, his 19 marbles that he has because Sang Woo only has 1. He puts them in his pocket and Sang Woo's like, oh, don't put them in your pocket. That's unsafe for you to do because somebody can snag them from you or whatever. He switches his 19 marbles with 19 rocks. And he tells them,
because he makes him like a satchel to hold around his neck. You know what I mean? Like, it reminds me a lot of like local El Paso media where like Aaron Jones, running back for the Green Bay Packers, he's an El Paso native. You know what I mean? He went to school in El Paso. He went to UTEP. He's probably the most famous El Pasoan besides like Mia Khalifa at this point.
Wait, Mia Khalifa's from El Paso?
She graduated from UTEP.
Oh, really?
You didn't know that?
I didn't know that.
Mia Khalifa graduated from UTEP. That's not the point. That's not the point I'm trying to make. Aaron Jones this great.
Oh, I met him. He worked at the same hookah lounge that I worked at.
He's a great dude. Is my understanding.
Yeah.
I've never met him personally, which I'm jealous you have. He recently he wears a chain with his dad's ashes around his neck.
Lost it and somebody gave it back.
He lost it. Somebody that was part of the Green Bay Packers staff found it, called him up, and was like, "Yo, dude, I found your chain. Got it back." A really famous chain maker, like somebody that would have been in like Uncut Gems or some shit, called him and was just like, "Yo, I can make you an unbreakable chain. Like, I got you, dog." He made him an unbreakable chain so that he can still like play in games with his dad's ashes on his chest, which is like the greatest fucking story ever. And that's kind of the same thing that Sang-woo does with Ali, because he makes a necklace with the marbles with like a little satchel around his neck. He's like, "Here, dude, if the marbles around your neck, you're gonna fucking lose them." But he put rocks in this satchel and stole the 20 fucking marbles. So the minute time was up and Ali realizes that he has no marbles and he needs 20 marbles to progress to the next round, they shoot him in the fucking head, because that's how this game works. And it's exhausting. It's so evil, like on so many levels. Because the episodes where you're expected to feel bad for Sang-woo and how much he's in debt and how his innocent mother is going to be killed by the mob that owes the bank that he borrowed all this money from, that he lost in the stock market. You're just like, dude, what the fuck? But like after the death of Ali, you're just like, Sang-woo needs to die immediately. Like there's no way. But like spoilers, no spoilers. Like the final anime battle is Sang-woo versus Gi-hyun. So you got to deal with him for like 5 more episodes after this point.
And now we are seeing the same even odd wager game with the old man and Gyeon and Gyeon is thinks that he's having a dementia episode again, which he can't recall what he said in the bet.
Because it's like Sang-woo. Like, he's just losing the fucking bet for whatever reason.
He's up to his last marble until he starts, quote unquote, taking advantage of the old man.
Because it's the same thing. Gi-hyun's on his last marble, and the old man's like, "Hey, did I bet even or did I bet odd?" And like, Gi-hyun just starts lying. And he's just like, "No, dude, you bet odd. Give me your marbles."
But right before, we have this piece of dialogue where Pinky promise themselves into being like best friends, which is like, it's like, they're sewing heart threads.
Yeah.
And they're pulling those fucking like heart threads at you, and I mean away from you, and the old man, once he is at his last marble, we are perceived that he's going into another dimension thing where he remembers that he was looking for his family house. Now he goes around and there's 2 minutes left, 1 minute left in the fucking clock.
Because we already spoiled it. Like, the old man is the creator of the games. So he made this fake neighborhood that they're playing marbles in after the home he raises children in. And
this little neighborhood, it reminds me of JoJo's with the ducktail guy.
From part 4?
Yeah, part 4. And it reminisces the neighborhood that they're in, because the houses are blocked off by a wall almost. Yosuke. And the old man, as he's looking for this house, Gyeon is behind him. He's like, "Come on, old man, come on. We gotta fucking play. And he finds his home. He goes into this courtyard inside a blocked off section by walls, and he's like, you didn't hesitate to take advantage of me." Yeah. He starts telling him, "It's like, you thought I was being senile." But
then he slips back into the senility. He's just like, "What's happening? I have 1 marble left. Do you want it, friend?" And Gi-hyun just kind of goes for it. Because he knows he has to live, so he just takes it. And then the background of the scene, you hear the gunshot.
But you don't see it.
We don't see the body, which it's exhausting. That's like the end of like episode 5, episode 6, and you're just like. Which, like, not to forget about the B plot that we were describing earlier. There's also a secret member of the Korean police force that has injected himself into the Squid Game, which he pretended to be part of the Squid Game contestants when they were, like, re-entering themselves. And, like, he snuck onto the boat that snuck them onto the island where the Squid Game is happening. And he killed one of the people with the faces, the circle, a square, and triangle faces. And he's been steadily, like, working himself up. Like, it's shown by the number of sides you have on your mask. That's, like, your superiority, right? So, like, the circles have no sides, so they're the grunts. He kills a grunt initially that's meant to clear the van where the contestants are being held. Takes his mask and, like, injects himself into the game. He kills a triangle person who's one of the managers.
He picks up the triangle mask.
Right, and then eventually he picks up the square mask. But he's trying to get dirt on the people that are hosting the Squid Game because it's super fucking illegal, right? And after that, you see him trying to escape. And the faceless man with the geometric mask is trying to catch him. And he's hiding, the cop is hiding himself within, like, the game inside of the complex. And they can't catch him. They know he's on the premises. They know he's killing guards, but they just can't catch him. He is able to steal one of the oxygen masks, like a diving mask kind of thing, sneak off of the island. They chase him off of the island in a speedboat. And it turns out to be this really weird standoff where, like, the cop recognizes the person underneath the geometric mask. So he's either, like, an ex-cop or something, or his brother, or...
So the reason the cop initially infiltrated there is because he was looking for his brother who went missing since 2015, apparently.
So it was his brother.
Yeah. And when he... previously in episode 2, when Gian went to the police station trying to make a case for the people killing off people in this game to win money, he saw the car that the Gian left there. And when he went to go check on his brother was 6 months back in rent. For some reason, he's still able to be in his apartment, but he finds the same car there. So That's how he infiltrated there. Now, here, while the cop, the subplot, he was looking for records of his brother and shit like that, he's nowhere to be found. The doctor that was harvesting organs, he was trying to get information to see if they harvested his organs, because the crew harvesting organs were talking about a person that was missing a kidney.
Right. And
this police officer that infiltrated there has his brother's kidney.
Right.
In him. So that's how he kind of, like, got the context clues from the conversation.
That's, like, the irony here, too, is that, like, these people are trying to escape, like, the confines of capitalism through this game, but they're being tied so much to it. Because it's like, who are the people that are tiring these contestants to these devilish, like, morbid games? It's these people in circle, square, and triangle masks who are also seen as being ex-contestants that were allowed to live by acting as servants as part of the game. So it's just kind of like that capitalism, like, corrupts all kind of mentality.
Mm-hmm. And when we have this standoff, the geometrical mask person reveals his face only to his brother in this, like, that who is backing up into a cliff. And he's like, oh shit, you're the person that I've been looking for and the person that I got here, the reason I'm here for. And he shoots him and he kills his brother. And
it's one of those anime type killings, though. We never see the body afterwards, because, like, you shoot somebody off the cliff, they fall off the cliff, you presume them dead. This is the kind of thing that I would assume in a subsequent season, if there is one, that he's alive, right? It's one of those. It's like, I guess.
And it's funny because my girl Vianney, she mentioned, like, the VIPs, the people betting in this, almost like in Yu Hakusho first season when they're betting against who's going to get...
That's all season 2's about. I'll be honest with you. All season 2's about, like, billionaires betting on demons fighting.
And she's like, oh, their masks remind me of, like, Beastars. You know, like of main characters of Beastars.
Because it's a mask that you're hiding yourself in.
Yeah, and she brought that up. And this next game, we have the English bridge or glass stepping bridge,
which is the wildest fucking one.
It is fucking wild. Like, I would have never thought of
like at the very beginning, they're like, hey, pick a number between 1 and 18.
16.
1 and 16. Would you pick 1 or would you pick 16? What's better? Like the middle, the beginning, the end? What if it's fucking going through a barrage of bullets, but you have a certain amount of like protection? You'd want to be first, right? Mm-hmm. Or what if it's just hearing our main cast of characters like try to guess amongst each other like what number they'd want most. It ends up being like the last number. Mm-hmm. Because unless you're the last number, you won't know what the correct path here is, because it's a glass bridge. It reminds me of a Mario Party game. In like Mario Party 2, Mario Party 3, there was a game like this.
Correct.
Where it's like if you step over pieces of ice, it'll crack, and you need to be the one that survives the longest, right?
Correct.
But here it's like if you have 2 choices up until 8 rows of glass.
Left or right.
Left or right, one of them is 100% going to break under your weight. The other one is going to sustain you.
It's going to sustain 2 people.
Sustain 2 people, and it's up to you to get to the end. So, like, for every column of glass, you have a 50% chance to get the piece of glass that's going to sustain your weight. So the very first person gets it wrong, but then right away, everyone realizes that, like, yo, we need as many people to get it wrong as possible so that we know what piece of glass to step over.
Correct.
But the thing about it is that there's a time limit, but there's not a time limit per contestant. So one person could spend like 20 minutes on one piece of glass.
And fucks everybody else.
And just cuck everybody else.
Cuck is a term.
It's exhausting to see, because it's like the red light, green light thing, which we didn't even describe was under a time limit. You need to get over a line at a certain amount of time while a doll calls red light, green light. But here it's like the contestants are kind of allowed to fuck with each other. So it's like, hey, if you're going to spend 20 minutes on this one pan of glass and the rest of us are trying to get across, I'm just going to put you off. I'm going to push you off. I'm going to figure out which piece of glass on the next bit
is tempered.
Is tempered or isn't tempered, and I'm going to keep going. And this is where we kill like half of the antagonists. Uh-huh. Because we kill the South Korean cholo right here, because the girlfriend that he fucked in like episode 3 is finally back to get her revenge, and she's like, hey, you fucked me 2 episodes ago and you decided to totally cuck me after the tug of war. Mm-hmm. So now I'm gonna take you down with me and we're gonna fall to our deaths together. Because him, as like the thug, as like the strongest character, has just been bullying everybody. He's been forcing people to go before him. He's been forcing people to just like fall to their deaths. And this is I watched a TikTok about her the other day, the Han Min Yeon character, mm-hmm. and about how ugly the dub and the sub did her, and about how dynamic in Korean her language is actually, like how multilateral and like diametric. Like there's multiple meanings to what she's saying at all times, but you don't get that in the sub or the dub, which is like a loss in translation, which kind of sucks. But here you get a sense that's like, dude, you fucked me over. I'm gonna die anyways, so now I'm taking you down with me. Totally worth it.
Oh, I love that.
But she's totally annoying for like 4 episodes, but near the end you're just like, oh, I'm sad she died. I'm sad she had to go like that, just like screwing over a dude that screwed over her.
And now we get past through this game with our main 3 contenders, was this Gion, Songwoo, and our pit pocket girl, Bianc. And for some reason, the game directors decide to explode the tempered glass, which is very dangerous to explode tempered glass because it's under pressure. Yeah. It's such under like its density compared to its size it's so packed and so much pressure that if it breaks, it's just gonna shatter everywhere.
Right.
And when our 3 final contestants win, they get hurt.
Yeah.
And Beyond gets hurt the most because she gets a shard of glass stuck on her underbelly.
Yeah.
And if you don't know anatomy, and gravity, your fucking vital organs sit at the lowest part of your abdomen.
Right.
You know?
Which, like, she doesn't bleed out right away, but, like, it's obvious, like, it's either her liver, or the bottom of her kidneys, her large intestines are bleeding out. Like, it's ugly because they finally get, like, a real meal, which is, like, this badass steak and wine. And the main character Gi Hyun sees that Song Byuk isn't eating, and he's just like, dude, this steak was amazing. You're sure you're not gonna eat? She's like, no, dude, I'm fine. She's trying to play it off.
She's pale.
She's pale, which, like, she's already Korean. Like, she's already pale.
Her lips are crusty from dehydration and blood missing from her.
They put them back in the room where all these contestants were sleeping, which in the beginning was 456 people. Right now it's 3. They've taken all the beds out, and they've left, like, the weapon just for Song Woo to kill her, because Gi Hyun goes up to Sae-byuk's bed and is just like, hey, what's wrong? I saw you weren't eating. He rips off her covers, and it's just full of blood. Like, he's just like, oh, dude, like, you're gonna die. And she's just like, yeah, dude, I'm gonna die. Can you just fuck off for like 10 seconds?
Can you take care of my brother after you win?
Oh.
Or if Gi Hyun died, she would take care of his mom and shit, or his daughter. Yeah. But it turns into this revolting vengeance to Song Woo, because Song Woo's been a dick throughout the whole fucking season.
Ever since the killing of Ali, like, Song Woo is just like the antagonist, because you're not even worried about Deok-soo after, like, Ali dies. It's just like, dude, Song Woo is like the worst person here. Like, none of this other, like, South Korean cholo shit matters. And it's just so ugly to see, because, like, our Gyo Hyun, like, walks away, goes to the door, and tries calling the guards. He's like, yo, this girl's bleeding out, please help her. They come to the door, and they're just like, dude, she's already dead. Gyo Hyun turns around, and Song Woo's over Sae-byuk's body, because he stabbed her in the neck. Just all ugly as fuck. He's just like, dude, what do you mean? Why are you mad at me? She was gonna die anyways. And it's just like, you didn't have to be that way, bro. Like, I was trying to find help. You didn't have to be that way. And that leads up to the final game, which is the Squid Game, which is kind of like rugby in, like, a really weird way. It's like hopscotch in the sense that they, like, shape in chalk a squid on the ground. So you can only be within certain sections. Mm-hmm. So it's like hopscotch, but it's like you have to tackle the person into the other platform to let you to the middle of the squid part of the Squid Game, which is like rugby and American football.
Mm-hmm. And, like, the initial part, like, if you're playing offense, you can only use your one leg. You have to hop over to a section to be able to use both legs. Right. If the defense can't defend you from getting to that point, then you're able to use your 2 legs. Right. After that point, you can go into, like, the center spot.
And doesn't that sound wild? The whole game sounds so fucking wild. It reminded me so much of football as I was watching it. I was probably watching it on a Sunday too. But the scene that it's describing, it's like, I know I'm always shitting on Naruto, but it reminds me of the ending of Naruto Shippuden, like Naruto versus Sasuke vibes. Like, it's in the rain. It's brother against brother, like, rival against rival, just, like, beating the shit out of each other in the middle of the rain, in the middle of this chalk-drawn squid. Mm-hmm. And there's, like, 3 instances that you're like, holy shit, Sangwoo's really gonna fucking win. This is fucking bullshit. I hate this show so fucking much. Mm-hmm. But, again, it has one of those cool anime scenes where it's like Sangwoo has a knife or a piece of bottle or something that he got in one of the previous games. He's gonna stab Gi Hyun in the neck the same way that he did Sae-byuk. But Gi Hyun, like, catches the knife in the palm of his hand to the point that the knife's coming through, which is super anime. You know what I mean? Uh-huh. He catches it, wraps his hand around the knife so that, like, Sang-woo can't move it anymore and go for his neck, and just starts beating the shit out of him. Like, his one free right hand just starts beating the living shit out of his childhood best friend, which, like, is even worse because you start getting flashbacks of like Sangwoo, of Gi-hyun talking to Sangwoo's mom, being like, yeah, what do you mean? Like half of Sangwoo's like victory in life, half of his wins are mine because I drove him to school every day. Which is, it's so fucked up because he never lived up to those expectations. It's it's really one of those, it's the lower class fighting amongst each other kind of stories. Because the B plot after the cop dies is, well, right before the cop dies is we start meeting the billionaires that are watching the game, that are betting on the game. And the undercover cop has like killed circle members, which are the grunts, the triangle members, which are the managers, the square members, which are like the managers to the managers. And he started putting on masks for the servers that are feeding the billionaires and giving them drinks and helping them out. And one of the billionaires, who's an American, which is so ironic, like the whole world just sees like, who's the epitome of capitalist scum? It's a white American man. You know what I mean? He grabs the undercover cop and he's like, hey, let's go to my bedroom. Strips naked right away. He's like, hey, little Korean boy, let's fuck. The undercover cop kills him, and that's when he runs away. And that's like the irony, because like the rest of these billionaires are watching from above ground that these two poor men down in their luck, like the poorest men in all of Korea that have given up everything, watched 400 people die at this point, are just like duking it out bare fist to bare fist with a broken fucking knife, just trying to murder each other for 80 billion yuan. It's so ugly the more you think about it.
And our protagonist wins. Our protagonist wins the Squid Game. He gets released with this golden credit card that he doesn't use the money for a certain amount of time. It's never.
It's like a year.
Yeah, it's something like that. And the old man, as we told you guys, that he is the head of this fucking Squid Game. He reaches out to him in his deathbed in this building, looking over a homeless guy that is dying in the winter of South Korea, which has to be a crazy winter because humidity. It's an island, almost an island peninsula.
It's a peninsula, yeah.
You know, and they bet on whether this hobo is gonna get held before midnight or not, and they win.
It's even uglier right before that because it's a year after the Squid Game. Gi-hyun got deposited $80 million inside of a bank account, got given this golden debit card, and earlier in that episode, it's the last episode, it's episode 9. Gi-hyun gets brought to this bank. He's taking public transportation, which we already know he wants. So it's like, dude, you're worth like almost $1 billion yuan.
He gets the red hair anime dyed.
Well, not yet. That's what I'm saying. He shows up to the bank, and the bank's like, hey, you have 80 billion yuan. You sure you don't want to invest it for us? And he just blows it off. He's like, nah, not really, dude. But can I borrow 1,000 won? Which is $10. Which is $10, and the bank manager's like, yeah, let me find it. I only have 100,000 won. Is that good enough for you? Which is again meant to symbolize that the disconnect between like these people at the top and the people at the bottom. And it's immediately after that like he still hasn't spent any of this 80 billion yuan that the old man takes him. And invites him to his apartment. And it's a completely empty condo. This ginormous condo in Seoul.
With like the best medical system.
Right, which is like, if you're I imagine Seoul is something like Tokyo or something where like every piece of square footage is worth like a fuck ton of money. You know what I mean? So him being in this condo that's completely void of furniture, and it has to be worth a fortune. But he's just hooked up to all this medical machinery. It's just like, hey, dude, I didn't mean to lie to you, but I totally did mean to lie to you. I'm totally dying of that brain tumor I told you about a year ago. And I'm totally about to pass out. But I want you to know that you're the best person I've ever fucking met, because you still haven't spent this 80 billion yuan. And let's watch this homeless man, like what you were describing earlier. I'm sorry I'm cutting you off just to re-describe it.
No, it's okay.
But the final game, air quotes game, it's Christmas night. It's December 24th. They're gonna watch a homeless man on the corner across the street from the old man's condo, and the old man's like, hey, I'll bet you all your money, all my money, that nobody is going to help that homeless person on the street on Christmas Eve. Which we see a few people walk by. We see one person walk by, try to talk to him, and just kind of walks away. And even the old man's like, see, told you nothing was going to happen. And it's like 11:45. Midnight's the deadline. But then like at 11:59 p.m.,
the person that walked away was only getting authorities to go help the old man, and it's this moments that is like, oh, your humanity is restored.
It helped my heart. You know what I mean? Like, this whole show is so ugly, and it's meant to show you the ugly like side of humanity. And I'm just like, oh, it's okay. It's okay. It's gonna end right here. But we still have like a whole nother 10 minutes. And I'm just like, something bad's gonna happen.
And me and my girl at this point are like, make it count, Yon. Make it count, Yon. Make it count. Like, you did not go through all this bullshit not to go look for your daughter, not to go get your daughter back. And we see this cinematography of him walking through a runway. And like I was telling you before we fucking started recording, that you're as a director of cinematography, you're not gonna put that scene of someone walking through a runway towards your plane without them turning back.
Right, because after that night with the old man, after like the old man finally expires and Gi-hyun feels that he has confirmed that people are actually good people at heart, he starts spending the money. He gets his hair dyed, he gets a haircut, he starts buying suits, he's trying to be presentable, he's gonna go visit his daughter in America. His mom died, we didn't even describe that. He came back from the Squid Game. He was like, Mom, I'm going to buy you all the good treatment. He found her dead in her bedroom.
Cold as shit.
Because she'd been dead for several days from dying from just fucking diabetes while he was trying to find money to like get her treatment. And we think he's finally going to do it, right? We think he's going to be the good guy we expected him to be this whole time. He's at the train station platform on the way to the airport. He sees the guy in the suit trying to volunteer a new victim for the Squid Game. He goes over to the other side of the platform, knowing he's going to be late to his flight. Doesn't give a shit. He's just like, hey, don't fucking go to that Squid Game. That shit's bullshit. Don't do it. It's evil. Takes a card even so that the guy can't even call the number. And the scene you're describing, he's on the runway to the airport, like the little tunnel to the plane, the little tunnel they put you in that like goes to the plane. And I didn't pick up like you did or I thought the scene was necessary, but I remember telling Karen at the time, I was like, go on the plane, just get on the fucking plane. But Gi-hyun's smart enough to know that he saw the man in the suit recruiting more people to the Squid Game. So even though the old man died, more people are being invited to this deadly Squid Game. Very last 10 seconds is he looks at his phone and he's like, I'm going to get on this plane. He decides to not get on the plane so that he can go try to stop the Squid Games.
And that was 2021 Squid Games. A masterpiece on its own.
The ending is so ugly just because it's trying to set up for future seasons, which I get because it's a serialized show. I understand why it's doing that. But like if this were a movie, it'd be such a good ending for him to just get on the plane
for the audience, yeah.
But like because it's a show, it's like, hey, we can always do another season later, so we're not gonna put him on the plane.
And hopefully we get a payout. You know, hopefully we get a resolution to this character of Gi-hyun that we've been following throughout his demise and his rise in the system.
Because he's clearly the new parallel character to the old man. Like, he knows everything about the game. He's well-funded. He can, like, tear it apart from the inside. Mm-hmm. Which, if there is a season 2, which I assume there would be a season 2.
I think so.
It's literally Netflix's most popular show ever. Mm-hmm. It's so profitable. Netflix had a walkout on Wednesday for trans rights because of the Dave Chappelle special. But the only thing keeping them afloat is fucking Squid Games. Mm-hmm. There's no way they don't try to produce a second season of Squid Games.
Absolutely. And guys, thank you very much for listening to this episode 66 of Between Nerds.
My name is Drew Philip Elias.
I'm Aldo Mendez.
And we have been Between
Nerds.